I wanted to make a video sharing my research on the Delphi murders. I didn't start following it until around the 4th anniversary in February of 2021. I've never been to Indiana and I never clicked on any of the stories, although I did see the headlines saying that it was captured on video. I figured it would be solved fairly quickly, but apparently it has not. In the 2.5 months that I've been researching this, I've become obsessed with the case and have probably spent over 300 hours on it, working literally all day on weekends until midnight until I just cannot go any further. So I've compiled a lot of analysis on many different topics related to the case, which I'm going to show in this video. Because I have so much to share in this video, I'm going to try to edit it down as much as possible to delete all of the pauses and stuff like that. So you might notice that it kind of jumps, and that's only because I tried to edit out as much pauses as possible. Since this video is going to be so long, I just wanted to give people a quick YouTube viewing tip so you can watch it in half the amount of time. If you click this settings button here, you go to playback speed and you can adjust it to be as fast as 2 times. Also, I'll add some timestamps just so people can jump to various topics more easily. I could have broken this video up into 15 different topics and released them weekly for a few months, tried to get subscribers, but I do not want any subscribers to my channel. I'm mortified by my channel. All I want is to help this case and get it solved. There isn't a single video on my channel where I say, please like and subscribe, because I don't want that. I'm not looking to become a regular commenter on this case. This is going to be the only video I do about it. And I'm not going to be doing any other kind of true crime videos, so don't feel like you should subscribe. So what qualifies me to investigate this case? Basically nothing. I'm not in law enforcement. I'm not even interested in true crime, but I have solved quite a few mysteries. I'm not going to get into them. It's nothing criminal cases, but there are some things that I have solved that people said I have very good investigative skills. And I think you'll see in my research that I am kind of decent because I have found a few things that other people have not really found or focused on. I wouldn't say this video is an entire recap for people who are new to the case, although there will be a lot of stuff that will be helpful to you that I wish I had known before I started searching. I would say it's more for people who have been following the case for quite a while, just to show my perspective and what I found and what I think people should be focusing on. Although I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who say, yeah, we've been following it for 4 years and 3,000 hours and we've seen all this stuff, but I think there is definitely some stuff in here that people have not discussed or revealed. In addition to the evidence, I'm going to reveal what my process was just so people don't have questions and you can see exactly what I did. Like I said, I've been obsessing over this for the past 2.5 months. I have a 64-page Word document. I've lost sleep over it, and unfortunately I have a lot of other things I need to be focusing my time on, so I'm not going to be really spending any time on the case after I upload this video. I really hope it gets solved, and soon. As you'll see, I did edit some of the video, photos, and audio, just trying to get a different perspective, but I'm not trying to trick anybody or present any false evidence, so please don't assume that. My research included watching a lot of videos, reading a lot of articles. I did not watch every 4-hour video of every YouTuber from the past 4 years, but I do think I found out enough information about the case to proceed with my research. I did read some threads on Reddit, although I didn't post, and I saw web sleuths, but honestly, they have so many different pages on there, it was kind of daunting, so I only read a few pages. I did not listen to any podcasts, and most of my time was spent researching specific things. It seems like everybody has their own theories, and there's a lot of speculation and quite a few false rumors that people just latch onto and just don't research. It's kind of frustrating. So I'd like to thank the thousands of people who have researched this case before me who helped with my research. I know we all don't agree on various things, but it's nice to see a lot of people trying to help solve the case. I'd like to thank all the people whose video or audio I use in my video. I looked at thousands of things and I did not write down the source of everything, so I'm sorry if I don't credit you properly. It was not my intent to just steal other people's research. Finally, it's time to actually start talking about the actual case. And I believe there are 2 different aspects to discussing it, and the most important is how can we identify the killer? The other aspect is all the unanswered questions that people have about the how and the why, which hopefully will all be revealed one day, but it won't be revealed until the killer is identified. So I think it's best to focus on identifying the killer, although I definitely will talk about all of my thoughts on those other questions in the case. There are so many acronyms associated with this case, so I just created a quick list of some of them. If you want to see the full list, you can search on Reddit.
We're seeking the public's help to identify the driver of a vehicle that was parked at the old CPS DCS welfare building in the city of Delphi that was abandoned on the east side of County Road 300 North next to the Hoosier Heartland Highway between the hours of noon to 5.
At the April 22, 2019 press conference, law enforcement asked for information about the car or driver at the CPS abandoned lot. I thought it was kind of odd that they said until 5 o'clock, since apparently Bridge Guy left around 3:15. I wondered why they think he was there that early and also that late. What evidence do they have? Is there a security camera at this building across the street, but they just couldn't see any license plate, or what? Was he sitting in his car from 3:15 until 5 o'clock, like an arsonist who set a fire and waits for the fire department to show up? This led me to believe that law enforcement wouldn't be asking about a car parked here if the 1:30 and 3:15 sightings by witnesses were untrue, where they both said they saw Bridge Guy coming from Freedom Bridge and going towards it. So in mid-February 2021, after the 4-year anniversary when I started looking into this case, the first thing I did was look into how I could find information about this car. The first thing I thought about were satellites that orbit Earth to take spy photos and for other purposes. So the first thing I did was open Google Maps and go to the abandoned parking lot at the CPS building, and if you right-click, you can get the latitude and longitude. Once I had the latitude and longitude, I Googled for satellite companies, and some of them have search engines within their websites. This is the list of companies that I investigated. Using the latitude and longitude, I was able to search for February 13th, 2017, the day of the murders. Surprisingly, I saw that they had some results. So if you see here, it says 1758 UTC, which is 12:58 Eastern Time. Bridge Guy was supposed to be at this location at 12:58 Eastern Time, so obviously I was kind of encouraged that it might lead to some good evidence. This is some more details about the file and the photo. Press pause if you want to see more. Unfortunately, their previews are in very low resolution, so I contacted the websites to see if I can get a better resolution photo. One of the sales reps from Maxar was kind enough to reply to me and saying that he went to Purdue during the time of the murders and he was familiar with the case. He suggested Planet Labs as having all of the satellite images from all satellite providers. So after I emailed Planet Labs twice and did not hear back over several weeks, I guessed the email of the CEO and asked him for help related to the case. A few days later, they were kind enough to send me 2 photos from February 13th, 2017 at 12:58 p.m. Eastern at no charge, so thank you to Planet Labs. They also confirmed that this is the only time on February 13th that they have imagery for Delphi. As you can see, these photos are at an angle, which I believe is because the satellite is orbiting at a certain angle, and that's how they take the photos. I was really anxious to open the files, hoping that it would show a clear image of a vehicle or the color. Unfortunately, I found out that images from Google Earth and Google Maps are usually taken from an airplane at a resolution of 5 to 15 centimeters. But the highest resolution satellite imagery for commercial purposes is usually at 3 meters, which I was told means each pixel is approximately 10 by 10 feet, and it's difficult to make out objects like cars. So this is the CPS building. I'm going to zoom in as close as possible so you can see. That's the maximum zoom. Now, if you look on the Hoosier Heartland Highway, like I believe right here and here would be tractor trailers, so you can get an idea of the size of everything. There might be a car right here. So the 2 images they sent to me seem to be about 1 second apart. So if you try to look here at the parking lot, it's obviously kind of difficult to make out anything. It looks like there might be a white dot here. It looks like there might be a white dot here in the street, car going by. There might be a white dot here. Obviously, you don't know what's a pixel that's blurred or a car at this resolution. Over here you can see that there's a white mark here, which I'll show you in a second what that is and how that size matches up. So I refer to these 2 satellite images as east and west. As you can see, this one is more towards the east and this one is more towards the west side of town, but it also did capture the CPS building. And in this version, it looks like there's a white dot here near the entrance. So I created this image here to see how the 2 satellite images differed. And obviously at this resolution, it looks ridiculous and you can't really tell anything. So on the left, we have the west image and on the right, we have the east. To me, this section here on the east image seems to be more black down here. And it looks like there might be some white here. And on the west image, it looks like there's some white here. It also looks like there might be a car here in the street driving by. So I tried to think, how could I make more sense of this? I thought maybe I could compare them to Google Earth and also helicopter footage. So this is what that is. On the left, I have the satellite image from the west. In the middle is Google Earth from April 2017, 2 months after the murders. And on the right is a screen capture I took from helicopter footage the morning of February 14th, the day after the murders. So as you can see here, the driveway pretty much looks the same color. similar, except for this here. This is, like I said, this is from April. This is from the day after. I'll show you a little bit later what this white stuff is. But if you look here at the satellite image, even though it's really pixelated, I don't think it looks like the entire parking lot is empty. Can I tell what kind of car is there or anything else? No, I can't. This is the comparison at smaller resolutions. The helicopter looks like it's pretty wide on the left side of the parking lot, but over here, it looks like the top is empty. It looks like the north part of the parking lot is the same color, but the bottom half is not, which leads me to believe that something is parked there at 12:58. I also looked at the alternate parking lot across the highway. As you can see here in the middle, this is the April 2017 Google Earth image. This circle here was a tree that they took out, so that's this black dot here. On the right is helicopter footage from the day after the murders. I know it's at a bad angle, but I tried to match it up with this. As you can see, the lot seems very dirty or muddy, possibly from the snow that they had the previous days. So because this is so discolored, and also because the pixelation of the satellite image is so low, it's really difficult to make anything out of this. But I wanted to at least show people that this was available, and unfortunately, it does not provide any clues. So I got these photos on March 22nd of 2021, and I thought it would be something that other online sleuths would find interesting, and also potentially law enforcement. And then a few weeks later, I saw on Gray Hughes' YouTube channel that he had actually found satellite images in, I think, 2019. And he said that he had already informed police, and they said that they think they already had the image that he had sent them. So I did not send this into police because A, the quality isn't great, B, somebody else said they already did, and C, he said the police already had it. In Gray Hughes' video, his image seemed to be a little bit different than mine, but he did say his was also from 12:58, although he had to pay $450 for his, and luckily I got mine for free. So I'll just show this entire area to people so you can see what it shows. I know some people speculate that the killer may have been a hitchhiker, or he pulled his car or truck over on the side of the road and then easily escaped. But if you look over here on the highway, there's nothing really on the side of the road that sticks out. This is from April 2017 on Google Earth. You can see here is a tractor trailer. Here is those markings that you can see in the satellite image. That's a car. This highway, I've never seen a picture of it with a lot of cars or trucks on it. That's the same discoloring that you can see in the April image. So that's the west photo. This is the east photo. I will take it from the top just so people can get an idea of this. It's pretty eerie knowing that bridge guy is in this picture somewhere. So this is the bridge down here. Obviously, it's not very clear. Here's the cemetery. I will zoom in as close as possible to the cemetery. This is a comparison photo I made of the cemetery. On the right is a Google Earth image from April 2017. On the left is a satellite image. You can kind of match up all of the trees here. Unfortunately, also like the CPS building, it's too difficult to see if anybody was parked here. There is a little white dot here, but also you can kind of see this is a little bit discolored. This is a tree, that's a tree. So again, this is pretty much useless. At the business across the street from the CPS building, I saw these two white things, and you can see them in the satellite image here. Also, it looks like there might be a white car or truck parked behind this building who may have been a witness to at least tell law enforcement who they saw parked over here. I took this screen capture from the helicopter on the 14th just to see if I could notice any kind of security camera that might be pointing to the right where the CPS building is. There's something here, obviously, and there's some markings here. I really don't see anything that could be a security camera. I don't know what this is here, but obviously some of them are very small and would not show up on a helicopter footage. This is from a press release saying a car was parked in the abandoned CPS building parking lot between the hours of noon and 5 on February 13th, 2017. We are looking for anyone who could give a description of vehicles that were in the parking lot during the time. I saw a few people online speculate about this truck here and whether it was abandoned and related to the murders, but this image shows that it has cones in the back and there are cones here, so I assume it's a city vehicle. Like I said, this is on the morning of the 14th, the day after the murders. You can see there's some white stuff up here, which I did not notice that in the satellite image. And like I said, I felt like the white was more over here. I don't know when these circles were put here. I kind of gave up on the satellite images after the resolution was so low, but then I felt like the evidence was so important that I couldn't give up so easily. So I searched articles for high-resolution satellite images. So I contacted all of these companies or government departments, and unfortunately only NASA replied that they do not provide highly detailed, high-resolution satellite imagery. I searched for Russian satellites, and that is this company here. They did reply that they do not have any images for Delphi from 1 to 3 p.m. on the 13th. I didn't expect any of them to reply to me or feel like they were obligated to, but a phrase I thought of during my research was, if you want answers, you gotta ask questions. So I don't think there's anything wrong with politely contacting companies. Hopefully law enforcement was able to utilize any connections that the FBI has to some of these other government agencies, which have maybe higher resolution or 1 meter resolution. So I wondered how else could law enforcement get an image of the car that was parked there. I thought about tractor trailers driving by that may have had a dash cam. So if they were coming from the opposite side of the highway, they may have gotten it in video, but obviously now 4 years later it's too late. And I feel like law enforcement thought at the beginning of this case that it would be solved quickly because of the video, and they may not have put out any kind of request for these type of videos. I don't know how often local police drive by the Freedom Bridge in the CPS building, but it is possible that one of them got the car on their dash cam. They just don't have the license plate. When I looked into the audio, I wanted to know, why did law enforcement leave static in between guys and down the hill? Is the static hiding any words that are being spoken? Could the static on guys be removed to hear his voice better? My theory about the order of guys and go down the hill. Why and when did Bridge Guy say guys and go down the hill? Since I only started following the case in February 2021, I had only listened to the file that says guys down the hill. And recently I watched the February 22nd, 2017 initial press conference where they played the file, and it definitely sounds like Bridge Guy says go down the hill. I'll play this part now.
I want to be very clear that what you're about to hear is just 4 short words.
It was interesting that he said 4 words, but it's known as down the hill, which is obviously 3 words, but they play it 4 times, so he may have made a mistake because of that.
Excuse me, 3 words. Down the hill. You're going to hear this played 4 times.
To me, it definitely sounds like go down the hill. And what is significant about that to me is he's saying go down the hill. He's telling them what to do. People who think he just says down the hill, there's speculation. Was he telling them something else is down the hill? But by adding go down the hill, it sounds like he's definitely ordering them what to do. Logic Pro is audio software on Mac computers, and so I've done some analysis using it. And this is the original file that is obviously in a little bit better condition than from the press conference. I tried to clean up the file a little bit. To me, that definitely sounds like he says go down the hill. In April 2019, law enforcement added the word guys to the file before down the hill. They also included static between guys and down the hill. The only reason I can think why they left that in was to show a pause, but it's easy to remove and replace with silence, so I'm not sure why they left it in. I tried to turn it up. The next thing I wondered, was there something hidden in the static that law enforcement either sped up or slowed down or did something to hide words? The first thing I did was take out the static between guys and down the hill. Logic has a function called flex, which allows you to manipulate audio in various ways, and one was called speed. Honestly, I'm not that knowledgeable with Logic or some of these functions, but I fooled around with it. So with speed, basically you can kind of manipulate various sections of the audio. So the first time I did this, moving these lines in random directions, it sounded like this. So that was with speed on. When I went back to pitch, which is the normal way it's supposed to sound, it sounded like this. Something stuck out to me when I played it back. This is going to loop. What does that sound like to you? To me, it sounds like trying to leave. Having said that, I'm not trying to create any kind of false evidence here. I'm just trying to see if there's something hidden in here. And honestly, at this point, I don't think it is saying trying to leave. I think it was just me randomly moving the audio, because I then went back to the original file from the Indiana State Police and I adjusted the audio, and something else shocking stood out that cannot be heard even when you put the volume loud on your laptop. So this is the original file where I added some volume to the middle. Did you hear this? This section stood out to me because it sounds like a girl saying something. So on this track, I isolated what I think that one word is. What does that sound like to you? To me, it sounds like Libby. Abby saying Libby with some emphasis. This is the file direct from the Indiana State Police website. The only thing I have done is kind of adjusted the volume. I've seen a few other videos where people tried to look into the static and they created dialogue that honestly to me it made no sense whatsoever. Since I'm not very knowledgeable about audio software, I contacted a few experts, and this is a reply from one of them about the static. He thinks the static was maybe her finger going across the microphone on the bottom of her phone, maybe when she was putting it into her sweatpants, or it actually brushing against her sweatpants. You can pause and read the entire response if you want. In a separate session over a month ago, I tried to take out the static in guys, and this is what it sounded like. Next up, I wondered about the order of guys and down the hill. Since the 2019 release included the word guys, they obviously wanted to focus on that more, but I wondered if he actually had said guys after down the hill. To me, it makes more sense that he would have said go down the hill, and either they looked at each other, or they were scared, or they told him no. And then he says guys after that, where you can hear it's more pronounced, like he's emphasizing, guys, I'm not kidding. He raises his voice to say guys. I think I may have seen a family interview where they did say it was guys down the hill, but this was just something that came to mind. That was the theory I had. Why and when he said guys go down the hill? He obviously wanted to get them out of view of anybody coming toward the bridge, but what was his plan, and did he actually tell them what he wanted them to do or what he was going to do with them? Did they cooperate immediately, or did they ruin his plan by running away? I don't know if he actually confronted them as soon as he reached them. There's speculation that he said he was a police officer and they were trespassing and he was arresting them, and they couldn't go back over the bridge, so they had to go down the hill. That does sound logical to me because it's obviously hard to control two other people, and if he had handcuffs with him, it would be easier for him to do it. My only issue with handcuffing them behind their back is that hill was very steep, and people who have shown videos going down it, they need to hold on to the tree branches going down. So if their hands were behind their backs, they possibly could have fallen if they couldn't balance themselves. While thinking about what could have happened, I kind of imagined Libby sitting on the rail at the end of the bridge while Abby was walking around. And as he approached, maybe Abby got off the end of the bridge and he walked past them towards the end of the trail. Since it was Abby's first time on the bridge, maybe she was too afraid to immediately start walking back on the bridge. So they obviously didn't think that he was also about to kill them. So they hung around until he came back, and maybe he decided, okay, I'm going to actually confront them or do what I'm planning to do. Law enforcement has said that there is additional audio and video. I think they should release as much as possible. Even if it's upsetting to the family to hear now, they're going to hear it in the courtroom when he's on trial. Even if it's just a few more words spoken by the killer, if it's something that his friends or family or coworkers could recognize, then it's going to be worth it to get him arrested. Brian Chadwell was recently arrested nearby for a crime against a 9-year-old girl that people think is similar, and a lot of people think he could be the murderer in Delphi. So I found an audio clip of him saying guys, And I'm going to compare it now with Bridge Guy. So this is Chadwell saying, actually it's you guys.
Yes, 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 yes.
And this is Bridge Guy. Obviously it's in two totally different situations. I don't think it's the same guy. I know it sounds similar. He has a raspy voice, but I just don't think it's him. So I'm going to play another portion in the beginning where down the hill, I'm comparing it with another audio file where he said, more than you know. So it's similar phrasing.
Mornino, 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 Mornino.
It does not sound like the same person to me. I mean, it sounds similar, but if you listen to them separately and together, can you honestly say that is the exact same person? No, to me, Bridge Guy is a different voice. I looked at all of the clothing that the Bridge Guy wore, and to me, the one piece of evidence that stands out the most to solve the case and identify the killer is his jeans and the rips and holes in them. Most people seem to focus on his waist and above, but I really believe the most identifiable feature in this video is his jeans and the rips. If you look on the left, there is an obvious massive hole the size of a lemon or a baseball around his knee. And if you look on the right, there is another hole, and below it is like a 3 to 4 inch white faded mark. Focus on looking at his knees. I created a GIF using the 2 frames from the video that seemed to show his rips the best when the sun hit them. People say that men in Indiana and the Midwest all wear this type of outfit and have holes in their jeans. I have looked at thousands of photos of men in Indiana in the past 2.5 months, and I have not seen anybody wearing jeans that have these rips in these specific positions. The rest of the jeans don't look dirty, but he obviously wore them enough to create those rips and that fade. I believe it's highly likely that he was either photographed or videotaped wearing those jeans in the years prior to this murder. Whether he was the focus of the picture or video or if he was posing or not isn't relevant. I believe he could be in the background of any picture or video that somebody took, and whoever is able to find it can get $325,000 for the reward. Based on the location of the rips in his jeans, I wondered what kind of work or hobby would have worn out the knees. I came up with mechanic, hunter, farmer, fisherman, roofer, construction, archaeologist, someone who rides a motorcycle, or a welder like Brian Chadwell. I don't think the guy on the bridge could have been very wealthy if he was walking around with holes in his jeans like that. Some people suggest that he was possibly wearing those clothes as a disguise, but I really don't believe that those holes in his jeans were a decoy. He may have been unemployed or recently out of jail. I noticed that when he lifted his leg up, it seemed to be like there was an outline in his pocket. I'm not sure if it's a phone or a wallet. It seemed more like a shape of a wallet. That's picture 1, and this is picture 2 with a bulge also. And you can see his rip is massive. This is from the video. It may be pixelation, because you can see it's like kind of a bubble there. But there's kind of something protruding. And then again, here, right there. My last point about the jeans is that they seem to be bunched up at the bottom, which indicates to me that he is not as skinny as some people might think he is. Because if he was skinny, he would have a pair of jeans that fit correctly. But if he has a large waist, the jeans would be for an average person who is expected to have longer legs. So he's wearing a waist size of jeans, usually associated with somebody who is taller. Next, I looked at his jacket, and the thing that stood out is there are so many things stuffed in his jacket. It's crazy. It's like overflowing with stuff. And you see at the end here, it looks like the zipper is broken. To me, the items are so close to the zipper that I feel like it's not in a pocket. It's somehow stuffed under his jacket, but I'm not sure how he kept it from falling out. Some people think that's a gun there. I mean, it does look like an L shape right there, but I think he's holding the gun in his right hand possibly, because that seems kind of hard to get to unless he somehow reached in there. And then it changes shape like everything else in this 1 second video. I don't know what he had stuffed in there, but obviously it was stuffed to kill them. And there's been talk about several signatures left at the crime scene. So I'd imagine some of those things are stuffed into his jacket. I wondered why somebody would stuff things in their jacket like that. And something that came to mind was maybe he rides a motorcycle. And maybe that was the only way for him to transport these items to the trails. I know there really hasn't been any talk about a motorcycle being at the trails. And the police want to focus on a car at the CPS building, but it was just an idea I had. Some of the other items he may have brought were rope, binoculars, handcuffs, masking tape for their mouths. Some people speculated that he may have brought some kind of liquid cleaner to wipe his DNA off the crime scene and their bodies. If you look at the left side of the screen with his right hand, it seems to be out of the pocket more than the left hand. So maybe he was loosely holding onto something in his pocket. His jacket isn't very fashionable, and I wondered if it was something that he maybe borrowed from a father or grandfather, or if he wasn't wealthy, he may have gotten it from the Salvation Army or a thrift store. If he's unable to buy new jeans, I doubt he's buying a new jacket very often, and this jacket might be as old as 5 to 10 years, and should definitely show up in some people's older photos who are his friends or family or coworkers. I looked online for similar jackets and I was unable to find anything, and it does not look like he has any kind of logo even in the shadow area. Like I said, I looked at thousands of pictures of men from Indiana, and nobody was wearing a jacket even similar to this. Witnesses describe Bridge Guy as wearing a scarf around his neck and possibly covering the lower part of his face. Like the rest of this video, it's so frustrating because the shape of it changes from frame to frame. In that last frame, I can kind of see like a white rope that's bent, that's protruding from his jacket. Similar to this. There's a certain frame that I noticed where it looks like it has writing or a logo. It gets kind of blurred here. Right there. So I took some screenshots trying to edit it with various filters to try and make out if it has any logo or writing. To me, if you look at the left side of it, it looks like it could be a square, a rectangle, the top part of a diamond, possibly a uppercase A or D, and then it looks like there might be some lowercase letters to the right. Here it looks like it kind of snakes around. So in this frame, it really looks like there is something there, like a defined symbol or letters. But like I said, then in the last frame, it looks exactly like a rope. So this video gets so confusing sometimes. I did a negative image of that, and you can see here the black is what was in what I thought was the white writing. Some people mention that what he's wearing could be referred to as a neck gaiter or a balaclava, which is this thing here. And in my research, I found that a lot of motorcyclists wear a balaclava or a neck gaiter. So I tried to think of sports teams that might have a black and white logo. So I thought of the Raiders. There's obviously a few other ones, but nothing that really seemed to match up. I thought about Metallica, the band. It didn't match up. So after I found out about the balaclava being worn by motorcycle clubs, I spent about 5 hours looking at motorcycle clubs in Indiana. In addition to the scarf, I was looking for a man wearing a similar jeans, jacket, and hat, but unfortunately I did not find anything. I did come across this one motorcycle club called the Outlaws, and if you look on the left here, they do have a diamond-shaped logo, but I was unable to find if they sell any neck gaiters, which would have the diamond followed by Outlaws. People who have researched James Bryan Chadwell will note that his pit bull is named Outlaw, so I made that connection, but even though he posted on Facebook about some guy breaking down his Harley, I guess, in front of his house at some point, I did not find any evidence that he owned a motorcycle. The last part of this is when I was researching Garrett Kurtz as a potential suspect, I saw that he posted Copenhagen Tobacco, which you can see they have a diamond-type logo. So I found this sign online, but I was unable to find if they sell any kind of scarves or neck gaiters. I also wondered if the top could be the Chevrolet or Chevy logo, but I don't believe it is. I wonder if anybody in Indiana recognizes if it can be a logo or some kind of company name. There was a charity motorcycle ride called Kickstands Up the Saturday after the murders to benefit the girls. I tried looking at some video and pictures from that day to see if I could find anybody wearing something similar, and I did not. Next up, I looked at his shoes, which unfortunately they're kind of blocked by this fast forward rewind thing that I'm doing. And also, unfortunately, they seem to change frame by frame. I did notice that when he lifted his left foot up, it looked like the sun shone on it There was a light spot near to the jean, so I wondered if it was the type of shoe where it's black at the front and then a lighter color more toward the pant leg. Although it does not look similar with the other shoe. And I noticed there, the sole looks kind of oddly shaped, like flat. These are some screen captures and close-ups. I must have looked at over 2,000 types of men's shoes looking for this type that had a black front followed by a lighter color here. I don't think this is what he's wearing, but kind of what I see when he lifts up that back part of his shoe. There are hardly any shoes that look exactly the same. I noticed that when he lifts up his left leg, there appears to be something white at the bottom of his sole. I'm not sure if that's the design or what. These are some other shoes on the left and right there that have the black front. But then if you look at this frame, it looks like it could be just regular old brown boots. Like I said, this video can be so frustrating with how things change. Some people noted that the police may have gone to the Indiana Packers plant, which is located a mile away from the murder scene, to collect evidence, and they removed a pair of the workers' boots. I don't think they really match up. I took these screen captures from a video from the Indiana Packers website, and you can see the bottom of these have very distinct yellow, and they do seem to match these two guys here. This is somebody on the left who, I don't know, he maybe didn't start working or he doesn't work in a certain part of the building that requires these boots. I would assume law enforcement looked on both banks of the Deer Creek to see if they could get any footprints from the bridge guy or not to match up what kind of shoes he was wearing. Some people seem to think that he might have a problem with his right leg, the way he moves it. And I agree that it's kind of awkward, even though this clip is only 1 second. But if you look here, there is a brown board that he's approaching, and I think he tries to step right before that, and then right after that he turns his foot to go more towards the center of the bridge. See, he plants his left foot, and then he's about to turn it to the side. See, he kind of shakes his foot out there. Anybody else watch this video so many times you wish you could have pushed bridge guy off the side? Next, I tried to examine what is on top of his head. There's obviously a debate about whether it's a hat, a hoodie, or some people think it's just hair. I try to respect other people's opinions as much as possible, but in this case, there's only two things that I absolutely disagree with people on, and one of them is people who say it's just his hair on top. I know it changes frame to frame, like it's so annoying. Like in this last frame, to me, it looks like he has a baseball cap on and it's sideways. Like there's the bill of the cap is on the left side here, but you go back a few frames and right there, it looks like a moss-colored hoodie. Something that stood out to me when I was going back and forth with these different things is it looks like there's white writing on whatever he's wearing on the left side of his head here. And it crosses over even when the top thing on his head seems to change. Unless it's there. So if you look at that spot there, it looks like there's white writing. There it is. There it is. There. There. Unfortunately, this last frame, which might be the clearest, it does not show up. To me, this is so frustrating because this looks like a baseball cap turned to the side with the bill going out towards the left. But a few frames earlier, it looks like a hoodie. And then there, it changes even again. Like there, it looks like a brown hoodie. There, it looks like a moss-colored hoodie. And here, it looks like it could be a camouflage baseball hat. I wondered if he wore a baseball hat to the side to maybe hide a logo. The witnesses described it as being a painter's hat. So I found this online, this one, this. These are a few similar hats that I found in my research, but none of them seem to exactly match what he's wearing. Brian Chadwell was a welder, so I found some welder's caps, and this is like a moss colored here. When I looked into this brown thing underneath his waist, there's obviously some discussion about him having a brown hoodie, and that is what is sticking out there, or a brown shirt. But like everything else, it seems to change from frame to frame. So at the beginning, it looks like a square. It looks like there's some kind of white in there. And then it gets smaller. And then it changes to a little bit different shape. Again, it changes. And then in the last frame, it looks like it's flat, like a shirt. So the clearest image I felt was here. And to me, it looked like it was some kind of bag with maybe a circular logo. I searched a bunch of terms for what could possibly be around his waist and looked at pictures for hunting fanny pack, men's waist bag, fishing fly wallet, heart monitor, shell pouch, tool belt, binocular case, and waist ammo hold pack. The closest logo I could find with a circle was turban, and this is an ammo case. I'm not saying that this is exactly what he has, because it does not match up exactly, but this is the closest that I could find to what I think it looks like. This was another item with a circle on it that was for ammo for guns. There is also speculation that he may have had binoculars, and so I found some binocular cases. Obviously, it does not match up with the logo that I'm looking for, but it's just an example. This one was a fanny pack, another waist pack. This is a heart monitor, but I could not find something that was brown that matched what Bridge Guy was wearing. The last thing I thought about, if it is some kind of pack over there, that is by his right hand, so it would maybe indicate that he's right-handed instead of left-handed. In some frames, it looks like there's some kind of white, but I just can't make it out. Like everything else in this video. I think the sketches and trying to identify Bridge Guy through the video is kind of pointless. Like I said, I believe the genes and the exact holes will lead to a better chance of identifying the killer than these sketches or trying to decipher his face from the video. I created this GIF morphing both of the sketches, and as everybody can see, the younger guy looks nothing like the older guy. In my opinion, the younger guy does not look like Bridge Guy. The older guy, possibly. But then in 2019, law enforcement said sketch one, the older one, is no longer a person of interest. I created this list of press conferences for people who are unaware of the timing. So 9 days after the murders, there was the first big press conference where they released the screen capture of Bridge Guy from the video of Libby's phone. 5 months later, they released sketch one after a witness met with an FBI sketch artist. Law enforcement said it was a composite from several witnesses. 2 years later at a press conference, they asked for info about the car at the CPS building. They released the video from Libby's phone and the additional audio with Guy's. Sketch 2 was supposedly drawn 4 days after the murders by a different artist and was based on the description of one person who saw something that they felt they need to be reported. April 5th of this year, there was a news release saying that somebody donated $100,000 to raise the reward to $325,000. Something interesting about the April 22nd, 2019 and April 5th, 2021, both were the Monday after Easter when an announcement was made related to the case. There's been speculation about several signatures left at the crime scene and whether they were religious or not. So what happened on the Monday after Easter in the Bible? And is it related to the items left at the crime scene? Easter celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ on the third day after his crucifixion. So I'm wondering, was there a crucifix left at the murder scene? I think another problem with trying to figure out who Bridge Guy is based on the video is if you look at the right side of his face on the screen, so his left side, our right side, you see this like kind of a pixelation bubble, especially right here. So to the right of his nose and above that where his eye would be, to me, it looks like there's bubbles, and you can see, like, I'm going back and forth here. So there's a large, like, oval bubble to the right of his nose going across his jacket. And then there's one smaller bubble above it, which I believe is totally blurring out his actual face. So trying to figure out who it is difficult based on this video. I've always thought of Bridge Guy as being in his 40s, although this last frame does seem to be one of the clearest, and I can kind of see a younger looking face here. And from this frame, the shoes look nothing like the ones that I showed. No wonder why this case hasn't been solved in 4 years. I created this timeline of witnesses who may have contributed to the sketch. This is mostly for people who are new to the case. Just to note that the 12:30 female resident and flannel shirt guy encounters are possibly untrue, and different people online state different estimated times, but this is the best that I could come up with. I'm not saying that it's totally correct. So law enforcement said they're looking for information about a car left at the CPS building between noon and 5. I'm not sure what that's based on, and frankly, including the time until 5 o'clock, about an hour and 45 minutes after he was last seen, is kind of interesting to me that he would have been around that long unless he was hanging around to see if and when police came looking for them. I don't know if that's based on eyewitnesses or maybe a camera across the street or something like that. I'm not sure. So the first apparent eyewitness is as early as 12:30. A woman who lives near the trail was possibly walking her dogs near the trail and talked to bridge guy near the south end of the bridge for I'm not sure how long, possibly just for a quick greeting, which makes you wonder, why didn't he kill her? Because she had dogs? It's just something that I thought about, and I'm sure other people have thought about the same thing. Next was around 1:30, a teenage girl, I believe, was walking with maybe up to 3 of her friends near the Freedom Bridge, and apparently she saw a man matching bridge guy's description. I found this video online of another local girl a few days after the murder, I think referencing the girl who saw bridge guy.
He was not on the trail Monday, but her friends were, and they told about a man they saw.
Yeah, they said that they had said hi and he just like brushed them off and kept going.
Did they think he was strange, out of place, or?
They said he was, but then again, it could just be a rumor.
They described him dressed in black.
Around 1:45, Abby and Libby were dropped off at the Mears lot, and it's only 1 minute to walk to the trail intersection. Around 2:07 was the Snapchat photos. There's some debate over whether that is a timestamp it was uploaded or viewed, but that's all we have to work with as amateurs. I'm sure law enforcement has a better idea. At 2:45, another woman parked at the Mears lot. In an online post around that time of the murder, she said that she told police about other cars parked around her. She said she walked across the High Bridge by 3 p.m. and was taking photos. I did not see a screenshot of this, but apparently on Facebook, she apparently wrote, "I only saw a guy when I first got there and another couple of guys once I got on the bridge." She said her female friend was there also at 3:30. She also said she saw a heterosexual couple, which most people refer to as the arguing couple, and she said she knew them. There's speculation about whether flannel shirt guy did pass or say anything to bridge guy and at what time. An estimate is 2:50. If bridge guy was older, I assume most older men who see another older man would at least give some kind of greeting. So around 3 o'clock, the arguing couple parked at the Mears lot, and about 10 to 15 minutes later, they apparently passed bridge guy on the main trail as they headed towards the High Bridge, and he headed toward Freedom Bridge and the CPS parking lot. Libby's father called her as he approached the trails to let her know he was about to pick them up. When he arrived at the Mears lot around 3:14, he called her again and then got out onto the trails to look for them. He encountered flannel shirt guy and asked if he had seen the girls anywhere, and flannel shirt guy said he was just at the High Bridge and he did not see them. So Libby's father went in the other direction toward Freedom Bridge. There is also speculation that he went on the lower 505 trail. He may have seen flannel shirt guy again as he walked back from Freedom Bridge around 3:35. Between 4 o'clock and 5:30, other family members, police, and firefighters arrived to help in the search. Around 6 p.m., someone posted on Facebook asking for people to help share the post to look for the girls. I have a few unanswered questions related to the witnesses. When did flannel shirt guy arrive at the trails? He was apparently there frequently, as he and his brother are very involved in the trails since their mother was also involved with them. Both men are older, and although some people theorize that flannel shirt guy could be bridge guy, most people do not believe that he is. I'm curious to know, which trails did flannel shirt guy take the entire time he was there? Where and when did he see bridge guy, and did they talk? I'm kind of confused about the timing of how bridge guy could see flannel shirt guy and then arguing couple, and why there was no overlap. And especially with bridge guy leaving between 2:50 and 3:15, did he just miss passing Libby's father at 3:14 or 3:15? Also, it seems odd to me that bridge guy would kill the girls across the creek, and apparently he did go through the woods, which makes sense to me. But why would he go back onto the trails and risk being seen by people? So this is Google Earth, and this is where he said go down the hill. At some point they crossed over here, and their bodies were found in this approximate position. Bridge guy is assumed to have gone through the woods here, so he didn't have to cross back over the bridge. But it hasn't been revealed at which point he came back onto the trails here. So as you can see, he has a ways to go to get back to the intersection. Here is the Mears lot up here where the girls were dropped off, where the arguing couple parked, where the other woman parked, and down here is the alternate trail. So then Bridge Guy had to go all this way back to get toward Freedom Bridge. He could have gone in the woods here. He gets back to Freedom Bridge, and here's the path to the CPS building where apparently he may have parked. There's been quite a few suspects that people have discussed over the years, and this is my list of who I reviewed, and most of these people I've ruled out, and I'll tell you why. I'm not saying any of these people are murderers, although obviously Garrett Kurtz is and Chadwell almost murdered somebody. Bridge Guy and the murderer obviously can only be one person, so a lot of these people, if not all, are innocent, and it's obviously not cool that so many people are saying these guys' names on the internet when they're innocent. So for the people who I think are innocent, I'm just going to refer to them vaguely. People who have followed the case for years know exactly who I'm talking about. So the suspects I'm going to review are James Brian Chadwell, who was recently arrested for another crime, who most people seem to be certain is the killer of the Delphi girls. Orange Truck Guy, the pastor, the judge, the sheriff, the archaeology professor, Garrett Kurtz, and potential other suspects. So the first potential suspect I'm going to talk about is James Brian Chadwell, who goes by Brian Chadwell. He was recently arrested in Lafayette, Indiana, about 15 to 20 minutes away from Delphi, after a 9-year-old girl came near his house and he had her come in to pet his dogs, and he locked her in his basement and sexually assaulted her. And luckily the police came, and although she was harmed and had to be hospitalized, she was not killed, although apparently he told her that he was going to kill her. There are a lot of suspicious things about this guy that a lot of people are sure, they're 100% certain that he is also the Delphi killer. But I saw people write that about 10 other suspects previously, like Daniel Nations, Thomas Bruce, Charles Eldridge, Garrett Kurtz, Paul Etter, the judge, the archaeologist, the pastor, Orange Truck Guy, and the sheriff. It can't be everyone. I've read comments about people online who are 100% sure that every one of those guys had done it at some point, yet no one has ever been arrested for the murders. Some people also speculated, saying that they know that he also did the Evansdale murders in Indiana, yet he was in jail in South Dakota in 2012, so that doesn't add up. This is his mugshot from May 2016. It gives a better idea of what he looked like near February 2017 than his April 2021 mugshot. As you can see in this picture, and we'll see in other ones, his earlobes are huge, although when he doesn't have the earrings in, they're obviously not as noticeable, but it's still pretty noticeable. So for the past 2.5 months, I've kind of had an idea in my mind that Bridge Guy was older, but also like in that last frame, I said that I felt like he looks younger. And in that frame, I've had an idea in my mind, and his face here really represents what I kind of saw in my mind, except for that his hair is darker. I know this video is only 1 to 2 seconds long, and it's hard to really tell anything. But to me, in just that limited amount of time, Bridge Guy seems like a guy who is not confident at all. He walks like somebody who is insecure and feels ugly, who's not good with girls, and not somebody who would be posting selfies on social media. Even though Chadwell posted quite a few selfies, he did say on TikTok that he does not feel photogenic.
So I said I would never do this because I'm not photogenic for one thing, but I also just really don't like people. I have dogs.
So for each suspect, I'm going to say some of the things that I feel like they could be the murderer, and other things where I feel like they could not be the murderer. For Chadwell, obviously he preyed upon a young girl for sexual motives. It's unclear if the Delphi case involves any sexual assault, but the murderer obviously preyed on 2 young girls at the same time. Chadwell's most recent arrest started out as a sexual assault, and he said that he was going to murder her, which makes you wonder if Bridge Guy started out with intentions of sexually assaulting them and they didn't cooperate, or something happened where it ended up with murder. The most recent arrest for him seems like it was more random, whereas Bridge Guy having a bunch of items stuffed into his jacket and leaving some of them at the murder scene makes me feel like that was more premeditated. Some people think he looks a lot like both sketches, but to me, they're comparing the most recent one, which is 4 years after the the murders. And although I agree that there are some similarities, I feel like when you look at the sketches by themselves and you don't have your eyes comparing it to something right next to it, this to me does not look like Chadwell. Does he kind of resemble it? Yes, but is it a close match? No. Same thing with this one. If Chadwell's friends and family saw this, none of them would say, oh yeah, that's Brian. There are quite a few photos of Chadwell near bridges and water. There's one of him in waist-high water fishing, which would kind of insinuate that he would be fine crossing the creek with the girls. Photo near trains and a bridge. Camping outside. Here he says he loves nature. In this photo, people notice that he has a tattoo of what looks like a young girl on his right bicep. People thought it resembled a photo of Libby, German, but I found this March 2016 photo where he already had the tattoo. This is the 2016 photo showing the full tattoo. He noted online that his mother passed away, so I'm not sure if it was her, or it also could resemble Linda Blair in the Exorcist movie. Either way, it's creepy. There's the photo with his ears. This one says he's 300% evil. He's an artist and showed interest in making tattoos. Some people feel like this is something related to the girls' murders. Honestly, I think it's reaching a little bit. In this online test, he chose path 4, which is a bridge. It says, the version of Brian you see depends on the way you treat him. Never mistake Brian's kindness for weakness. He has a heart of gold, but it won't end well if you make him angry. Brian may be quick to forgive you, but he will never forget the people who have wronged him. Here he quotes the lyrics to the song, I Always Feel Like Somebody's Watching Me, a few months after the murders. In this post 2 months after the murder, somebody asked him, where has he been? He replies, just getting away for a minute. Everyone needs a break. You know, brother. This March 9th post was his first one since January 4th. Some people say that he had set his profile to private between January and early March. This April post showed that he had a fire pit in his backyard to burn evidence. Here's a post showing his boot as well as some games he has. I found this 2019 photo where he's wearing jeans and there are no holes. I found this other photo from 2018 where he has a lot of rips in his jeans. They do not match up to Bridge Guy's jeans or to the exact rips. And in this case, I feel like those rips are more of a fashion statement than being a result of work or a hobby. Here's another photo from 2018 showing the same jeans. Here he mentions that he would kill for somebody. In 2018, he posted this saying, the world is full of monsters with friendly faces and angels full of scars. He wrote, very true. This is his pit bull named Outlaw. On April 4th, 2017, he mentioned that he got a new job, which leads me to believe that he was probably unemployed in February of 2017, which is a connection because Bridge Guy, people wonder how could he be out there from noon to 5 or even noon to 3 or 3:30 and not have a job to go to or have anybody to really notice that he's missing. And Chadwell got out of jail in 2016. He was released on August 4th, 2016 after serving over 12 years in South Dakota prison. Here he says he won't threaten an animal's life if they don't threaten his. The mouse looks thrilled to be squeezed in his hands. Here's another photo of him in jeans, but the holes do not match up. Even though it's dated 2018, his tattoos seem to be older. There's a popular account on Facebook called Imagine That Deja Vu. They posted a quote, picked up a hitchhiker last night. He said, thanks, how do you know I'm not a serial killer? I replied, the chances of 2 serial killers being in the same car are astronomical. That is not a quote from Brian, but he did post that again before he charged his phone. His hands have tattoos on them, and it's kind of difficult to see if Bridge Guy had any markings on his hands since they were in his pocket. In January 2017, before the murder, someone asks if this is his truck. I'm not on Facebook, so I was unable to see his reply. I'm curious to know if anybody near the murder scene would recognize that this was there that day. This is another car he posted in 2020. And another from 2019. In 2020, he said that he was wanted by the FBI, which is obviously a joke for maybe stealing that dog. In 2019, he posted this. When someone abuses your trust, you turn into a wildfire that cannot be stopped. You are untamable. He's listed as 5'8", and Bridge Guy is apparently between 5'6" and 5'10". Also, I noticed that he goes by the alias Blue Chadwell. This is another look at the tattoos on his hands and fingers.
So this national rape thing, it's a bunch of young-ass kids fucking starting some bullshit just to get some social media support. They're not really fucking doing that. Nobody does that. If they do, we fucking kill them. That's all. They know. Don't be a lamb. Be a lion. If you fall into that trap, that's your fault. Because you're a fucking dumbass. Get over it.
That's sweet. So a few times he references killing people and also child abuse, which I'm wondering if he was a victim of child abuse, because he definitely seems damaged. I'm wondering if maybe he was sexually assaulted. He does seem to get emotional sometimes talking about this stuff.
So I said I would never do this because I'm not photogenic for one thing, but I also just really don't like people. I have dogs. But I just wanted to say thank you to all you people out there that are sharing your stories and inspiring the rest of us to keep trying and doing our best. It means more than you know. That's really all I got. I'm not here for the shares and the likes and any of that stuff. I'm just here for support for others.
He seems to have a speech impediment a little bit.
All you chicks on TikTok trying to sling your booty or sling your taco, whatever.
He slurred the S twice there. And he seems to have a little bit of a lisp, which I did not really notice in Bridge Guide, but obviously he says so few words, it's hard to really make a connection. Like I said, he was in jail for about 12 years until August 4th of 2016, which is 6 months and 9 days before the girls were murdered. I don't know if he was out on parole or how that works. Not to be rude, but I assume he was kind of horny after being locked away for over 12 years. And if he was responsible for the Delphi murders and it was sexually motivated, I wonder if he killed them because he was afraid that he would go back to jail after only being out for 6 months. But is he stupid enough to have committed a sexual crime against 2 girls at the same time? Obviously, he was stupid enough to invite a 9-year-old girl who lives right around the corner into his home and nearly kill her, and then tell the police that you had seen her, but she left, and they came back and he allowed them to search his basement. Thank God. He probably didn't have much money after he got out of jail, so the jeans and jacket may have been hand-me-downs from either relatives or from the Salvation Army. It shouldn't be too difficult to ask his family or friends if they recognize any of those clothes. I noticed that he combines a lot of words really quickly, kind of like me, which kind of resembles Bridge Guy saying, go down the hill really quick. There's quite a few instances of him saying a lot of words really quickly.
Keep doing what you're doing. I love what you all are doing, man.
He says you all instead of guys, which he did say guys, at least in one other video. I believe he's originally from Tennessee and has a bit of a southern accent.
Everybody out here on TikTok, you're a fucking dumbass.
So what makes me think Chadwell might not be the murderer in Delphi? The FBI poster says the suspect had reddish brown hair, and although Chadwell seems to have dyed his hair at certain points, it doesn't seem to have been dyed in 2017 around the time of the murders. The original sketch had a goatee, and obviously he would not have dyed that. You would think one of the witnesses would have described him having deformed ears. Some people seem to think that him assaulting the 9-year-old girl means that he is a likely suspect in Delphi, but unfortunately, there's been quite a few guys in that area that have been charged with sexual assault against minors in the past few years. So it doesn't seem to be a rare occurrence there, along with meth crime. Another thing is that he was never a suspect until 4 years later with this arrest, which is similar to Garrett Kurtz and others who became well known once their mugshot came out. Hopefully law enforcement can check his phone and internet history to see if he has been following the case or where he was at certain points. On TikTok, he seemed to be an advocate against child abuse, yet even a few hours after one of his posts, he got arrested for assaulting the 9-year-old girl. Yet he never once seemed to have posted about the Delphi girls and asking for help in finding their murderer. So for the suspects, I'm going to pretend like I'm on the jury with the evidence that I've seen and say whether I would vote guilty or innocent. The definition of beyond a reasonable doubt is the standard that must be met by the prosecution's evidence in a criminal prosecution that no other logical explanation can be derived from the facts except that the defendant committed the crime, thereby overcoming the presumption that a person is innocent until proven guilty. As of now, my verdict for Chadwell in Delphi is that he is innocent. I know there are so many coincidences, but I really believe like his voice does not match up.
More you know, 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 more you know.
The sketches by themselves do not match up, nor do the witnesses' descriptions. Hopefully he'll get a life sentence for what he did in Lafayette. If it turns out that he is charged with Delphi in the next few days or months, I will be so happy to be wrong. But I really feel like I just cannot say at this point that he is responsible for Delphi. And I think people need to continue looking for the real killer. I don't see this case and amateur sleuths trying to solve it as some kind of like murder mystery competition where people should be happy that the suspect that they think did it ends up getting arrested and charged for it. I'm just researching these various guys and seeing what evidence is against them and just stating what my opinion is, whether they did it or not. I don't need to be right, and I'm not going to feel bad if I said somebody's innocent and they get arrested. I'm just trying my best to help the case. Another suspect that people sometimes talk about, I'm going to refer to as Orange Truck Guy, because you can see in the top right there, there's a truck that's orange, which is blocked in by other cars on the morning of the 14th, the day after the murders, which shows that it had been there as the first car, or some people speculate it had been there since the prior day. I don't have any evidence that this person is guilty, and he has not been arrested for anything in the recent time frame, so I'm not going to be showing his face. But people question him because Ron Logan, the property owner where the girls were found, said that his neighbor, Orange Truck Guy, was one of the people who found the girls. Apparently they had search parties, and Orange Truck Guy may have been with another man and woman. They were on the side of the creek near the bridge, and he noticed on the opposite side there were 2 deer. So he used his cell phone to zoom in on the deer, and he noticed the bodies of the girls. Another reason some people suspect him is because there's a rumor that he lost his keys on the 13th. That's why his car is in the corner there, and that it had been there on the 13th and the 14th. There's supposedly a text from Libby German's grandmother asking Orange Truck Guy's wife if that story about the missing keys is true, and she said it is not true. I assume law enforcement has looked into this guy over the past 4 years, including soon after the murders, like I said, since his truck was so close there. Here's a list of questions that I would ask him. When did you hear about the missing girls? When did you decide to help look for them? When did you arrive? Why was your car parked in the corner of the cemetery? Did you park there on the 13th also, or just the morning of the 14th? Did you lose your keys? If he says yes, could he have lost them in a struggle with the girls? Did he lose them during the night search on the 13th? Did he find them or get a spare from somewhere else? Where did he find them in the woods? Could he show law enforcement exactly where in the woods he found them? It seems really difficult to find a pair of keys in the woods in winter with a bunch of leaves and sticks around. But like I said, his wife denied that this was even the case. I would ask, when did he drive away from the cemetery on the 14th? And when did other cars first notice his truck parked there? Law enforcement should have also checked his phone records to see who he was calling to possibly get a ride or have them bring his keys. Apparently his alibi during the murder was corroborated by a police officer who committed suicide in December of 2020. If it's possible for law enforcement to get a high-resolution satellite image from the 13th, it could corroborate his alibi since his orange truck is very noticeable. Reasons that I think it might not be him is because his wife was friends with Libby's. She may have seen the notice on Facebook around 6 o'clock, and since Orange Truck Guy lives close by to the cemetery, it's possible that he came in that direction and parked there, and the only reason he could not get out maybe was because other police cars had blocked him in. I saw a video of him playing outside with his granddaughters, and the voice does not match up. Also, he seems like a somewhat kind older man who doesn't really fit the description of someone who would murder 2 teenage girls, as he has 2 daughters himself. Apparently, he moved to a different town nearby after the murders, but when he lived nearby, the direction of his home was northeast of where the murders occurred, but Bridge Guy was noticed going towards Freedom Bridge, which is the opposite direction of Orange Truck Guy's house. Since Orange Truck Guy is a local and also Flannel Shirt Guy was, wouldn't Flannel Shirt Guy have been able to identify him? If there was an abandoned car at CPS that law enforcement is looking for, wouldn't it have been obvious if it was an orange truck? And if Orange Truck Guy had planned this as a murder, wouldn't he know that the cemetery is closest to where he planned to murder them and the easiest escape route? I have not seen anything that would prove his guilt, so I would say he's innocent. And I think it's kind of sad that some people kind of latched on to him as a suspect, when in reality he was just a nice person trying to help. Assuming he is innocent, I'm sure it's a horrible memory for him to think of that image on his phone of the 2 girls dead. Next up is the judge. People thought he resembled the original sketch, and he has reddish hair, although I don't think he resembles Bridge Guy in the video or his voice.
Yeah, what got you in Lafayette? Oh, okay. What's her name? I know her name.
He appears to be between 5'6" and 5'10". I saw that he was in the Rotary Club, and I found this photo from 2011, but it's zoomed in a lot. I'm not going to reach and say that he's raising his right leg and it matches Bridge Guy having a problem with his right leg. I'll save that for conspiracy theorists. In June 2020, the judge had to resign after an escort in the area posted a video where he had come to her house and he kind of put the moves on her, let's say. The escort said that he had been watching her for years, created a fake Facebook profile, and seemed to be obsessed with her. In a series of 2017 videos, Marissa Stack, also known as Jalen Rain, both of which are aliases, described receiving messages from somebody who said that there's a sex club in Lafayette and that they abduct and abuse girls. The videos are over 45 minutes long, but the gist of it is a guy would post Craigslist ads looking for men for group sex as a way to recruit those men to be in the club to help find girls and abuse them. He said, "We have a very powerful member in our group who will have very good connections to help us with certain things." The escort believed that he was referring to. She said she gave the messages to a high-ranking official who did nothing with them. What you see on the screen is part of the message. This was the only photo of him I could find wearing jeans, and even though he has something that looks like a pager or something on his belt, it does not match what Bridge Guy had. Also, like I said, this guy does not seem to be poor. He's a judge, so I doubt he's really walking around in jeans with rips in them, although people say they think that Bridge Guy tried to disguise himself. I don't think it's this guy. People online have wondered if he has an alibi related to court. I was able to contact a source who said that he did not have any Carroll County cases that day on February 13th, but they said he was a special judge for other counties and they did not have access to that schedule. They added that they do not believe that he was involved with the murders. And just because he did not have any Carroll County cases that day does not mean that he was not at work. There are a few things that might add up, but to me, there's nothing concrete, and I think he's innocent. Some people online accuse the local sheriff of being Bridge Guy. They say he has a raspy voice that kind of sounds similar to Bridge Guy, or some people say sounds exactly like him. I will admit that there is one frame where Bridge Guy does kind of look like him. Here, it looks like Bridge Guy has a very noticeable mustache. There, I guess you could kind of say it somewhat resembles the sheriff. Having said that, he has no jaw whatsoever, no offense to him, but there's things that just do not match up with Bridge Guy. Bridge Guy has a jaw. Obviously he has a jaw, but it's kind of covered up. His body type does not match Bridge Guy. I isolated this one frame of Bridge Guy where he's lifting his right leg, where you can get a better idea of the shape of his leg and thigh. And I found this video of the sheriff from 2 months after the murders, and his thighs are a lot thicker, and that just does not match the Bridge Guy at all. If the jeans don't fit, you must quit. This was in May of 2017. Obviously his jeans are different color. Just the style themselves are totally different from what Bridge Guy is wearing, and he's wearing sneakers. His body just does not match to me. Yes, he has a belly. I think it's an actual belly and not stuffed in there other than cellulite. Also, some people said, oh, well, he changed his appearance and lost weight after the murders. Yeah, because he was in the papers and on national TV, and he maybe didn't like that he looked overweight, and so he did something about it. I don't think it necessarily means that he's guilty of killing 2 girls. Also, I'm sure that all of the witnesses to Bridge Guy have been following the case closely. Don't you think they would recognize that it was the sheriff? It makes no sense. I said earlier that one thing that I totally disagree with is that people say that Bridge Guy only has his hair exposed. The second thing I disagree with when people say is when law enforcement is covering for one of their own. Yes, there is a rumor that maybe Bridge Guy said that he was in law enforcement and was arresting them for trespassing. But do you really think that the FBI and state police would really not arrest a small town or small county law enforcement person who they know committed this crime? It does not make sense to me at all, and I think it's disrespectful to the police who have spent thousands of hours trying to solve this case, saying, oh, they don't care just because somebody they know did it, or somebody that has the same profession as them did it. My verdict is he's innocent. Next up is the pastor, who some people are convinced is the murderer, which I disagree with, so I'm not going to be showing his face or saying his name, but people who are familiar with the case know exactly who he is. This is a Halloween photo of the pastor wearing a mask, and some people said that they believe Bridge Guy is wearing a mask and that the pastor wore this mask to hide his appearance. And you wonder why meth is a problem. I don't agree with that at all. Some other things that people suggest is that he performed baptisms in the river and the creeks nearby of teenagers and adults. Also, he worked at the church where the February 22nd, 2017 press conference was held, and he was in charge of audio and visual since he works at that church, and law enforcement asked him to play the clip on the loudspeaker of Go Down the Hill. People say since he worked with teenagers in a religious setting that he would use the term guys when referring to younger people. As you can see here, he has a beard. Prior to the murders, he apparently was mostly clean shaven, but since then he has grown a very long beard, and people say that he's changing his appearance. He has 2 daughters and a teenage son, and to me, in one of the photos, the son does look like he could kind of resemble the second sketch, although I'm not saying that he has anything to do with the murders, the son or the father, but there is somewhat of a resemblance. Although the son was not even 18 at the time, so it doesn't add up. There was some speculation that somebody tried to catfish the girls on social media and possibly used one of their relatives' photos, so theoretically some people might say that the father cropped his son out of a photo and was catfishing the girls, but there is no evidence of that. And the victims' families have said that the social media and the catfishing has been looked into, and there's no evidence of it. One of the strongest pieces of evidence that has not been proven is that another pastor at the church was away out of state and his car was seen at the trails. People believe that this pastor had the keys and it possibly places him at the scene of the crime. Also related to the signatures that were left at the scene of the crime, people think maybe they were religious and maybe that he is very religious and thought maybe the girls were needing some kind of religious lesson or something, I don't know. In the past year or so, I think he has left Facebook saying he needed a break, and I don't blame him since I'm sure a lot of people have been accusing him falsely. To me, his voice does not match Bridge Guy, and similar to the sheriff, the one thing that I think really exonerates him is his head is so big and wide. Like if you see a picture of this guy, it does not match Bridge Guy's face at all. This guy has, no offense, he has a huge face. I think he's innocent. Some people have floated a theory about an archaeology professor and geocaching. Geocaching, I'm honestly not that familiar with it, but I think it's like Pokemon Go, where you go to certain locations using your cell phone, and once you get to that location, you can either use your phone to collect a certain item to add to your collection, or there are physical items that you open and then you mark that you were at that location. So there's one archaeology professor who was raised in Carroll County and is familiar with Delphi, including having done a lot of digs in Delphi near Deer Creek. His public geocaching profile shows that he had a lot of activity in prior years, but in 2017, it dramatically dropped off. I found that he wrote a book, and the front cover was a creek. I'm not sure that it's Deer Creek, and I do not believe it's the exact location where the murders are. In the book, he thanked the brother of Flannel Shirt Guy. Part of the theory that was posted by a YouTuber named True Crime Jesus was that this archaeology professor, along with Flannel Shirt Guy and his brother, came up with a plan to try and get Ron Logan in trouble so they could purchase the property, since the other 3 guys are so involved with the trails. Although I was very impressed with the investigative skills of True Crime Jesus, I do not think that this theory is correct or that the archaeology professor is the murderer. Although there are some things that kind of could make sense, I think in the end it does not make sense. I can't imagine 3 people conspiring to kill 2 teenage girls just to be able to buy some property and get some money. I know people do crazy crimes for stupid reasons, but that just does not seem to make sense to me. It did make sense to me that maybe, like I said, I believe those jeans with the holes in them are going to be what identifies the killer. And obviously somebody who's an archaeologist is on their knees all the time digging. And you can see here there is a stain on the pants, but this guy seems to mostly have worn khakis. And I did not find any jeans pictures with him where there are any kind of holes. This is a picture I found of his shoes. Although he does have reddish hair, I found a professional photo of him that's close up that shows that he has light-colored eyes, and apparently one of the witnesses said that Bridge Guy did not have blue eyes. There was other speculation about questionable posts and usernames on both Web Sleuths and Reddit. I read the Web Sleuths post and I didn't think that anything was really incriminating. As far as Reddit, there's some controversy about people thinking that the professor created a fake username just to create an alibi for himself. The condensed version of this is that some guy apparently signed up on Reddit as a new user and said that his girlfriend heard about the story about people thinking that the professor could be a suspect, and so she went back to her home and found notebooks from the class on February 13th. And he posted the photos online showing pages as well as the date. So long story short, I was able to go to his university website and search prior year's schedules and search by his name. And I was able to confirm that you can see here on Mondays, he had a class from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. So I searched Google Maps to see how long it would take to go from Freedom Bridge in Delphi to his university. The quickest time was 1 hour and 24 minutes. If he was bridge guy, he would have had to leave by 2:30 to get to the school, park, get to class, and start by 4 o'clock. Bridge guy was apparently seen as late as 3:15, and law enforcement said his car may have been parked there until at least 5. This theory does not add up to me. Is a professor stupid enough to murder 2 girls, think he can drive really fast and get to a 4 o'clock class and teach for 2 hours and not act like he's a murderer? I say no. Also, flannel shirt guy would have recognized him on the trail. Although his voice is raspy, I don't think it's an exact match.
This is the Baum's Landing site, which is an early farmstead that was owned by Daniel Baum.
My verdict is he's innocent. Next up is Garrett Kurtz, who quite a few people were 100% convinced was the murderer of the Delphi girls until Chadwell got arrested. And before Kurtz got arrested, they didn't even suspect him at all. Like Chadwell, I agree that there are quite a few things that add up for this guy to think that he could be the murderer. In March 2019, he killed a mother of 2 who he was dating while he had a girlfriend. Her name was Nicole Bowen. Apparently he was using meth at this time, and he found out that she was going to maybe snitch on him for cooking meth. People spend more time in jail for murder than they do for cooking meth, which shows that he probably was on meth at the time to think that this was a good idea. He drove her body to what local media referred to as a hunting shack, which kind of stood out because at one of the press conferences, law enforcement mentioned the book called The Shack. So Kurtz was arrested on April 5th, 2019, and at the April 22nd, 2019 press conference, Superintendent Carter referenced the book The Shack. Also at that press conference, they released the younger looking sketch, which some people believe signaled that they were thinking that maybe Kurtz has something to do with it. Kurtz is also suspected of catfishing a gay man on the gay dating app Grindr, strangling him in his home, staging the scene to look like it was kinky sex gone wrong, and then he and his friends stole the man's possessions. Kurtz has still not been charged with this case. Kurtz has been interviewed a few times by the YouTuber Open Secrets, and he flat out denies having any involvement in the murders of Delphi. He has admitted that he's very familiar with Ron Logan's property where the bodies were found. He said his father and Ron Logan were childhood friends and that Garrett spent a lot of time there growing up. In his interview, he said he's known Ron Logan his whole life, but he said there's no evidence that ties me to that. There's no DNA. There's no proof. I can't tell you where I was at February 13th or 14th because I've gotten high since then. In a later interview, his alibi was that on February 7th, it was his birthday, and he had started orientation for a new job at Indiana Packers, which, like I said, is a mile from the murder site. His coworker took him to Lafayette on the 7th to get a drug called Spice. On the 8th, he woke up late at his grandmother's in Brookston, which is 15 minutes west of Delphi, and worried that he missed work, and his grandmother said he was too messed up on drugs to go, so he never went back to Indiana Packers. In a September 2016 Facebook video, he said he was living in Lebanon, which is a 53-minute drive from Delphi. Also, he had a Snapchat account. He appears to have had a brown hoodie, similar to what witnesses said Bridge Guy was wearing. But as you can see, he always wears a baseball hat, and I was not able to find anything that resembled what Bridge Guy was wearing. You can also see he has something hidden in his shirt there. I'm not sure what it was, although it kind of made me wonder if it was similar to what Bridge Guy had around his waist. He seemed to wear a diamond earring in both ears, which I can't see any reflection in Bridge Guy's ear when he was walking across the bridge. I found this picture of his boots from 2016, and I don't think think they match what Bridge Guy's wearing. Here are the boots again, and some cutoff jeans with a hole, but it does not match what Bridge Guy was wearing. In police reports, he's listed as 5'10 or 5'11.
Let me vent for a second, guys.
That guise does not match up to Bridge Guy, in my opinion. Obviously, it's a different situation, but I just don't think it's a match. Other things that make me question whether he could be Bridge Guy is he admitted to killing Nicole Bowen without even asking for a trial. Most people who kill, even though they're definitely guilty, they at least ask for a trial. Why wouldn't he also admit to the Delphi murders? He could have done a plea agreement to avoid the death penalty. He ended up getting a 55-year sentence for killing Nicole. Here he talks about interviews with the police about his involvement in the Delphi murders, where he again says he had nothing to do with it. He said he did take a lie detector test, and they said that he failed, but it was only on one question where they asked, have you ever wished that somebody was dead? And it came back that he was being deceptive on that question, which isn't too hard to believe since he killed 2 people. You kind of wonder who could kill 2 teenage girls, and to me it's somebody who doesn't really have much respect for human life, and this guy obviously did not. He killed at least 2 people in a short span of time, although he said it was all because he was on meth at the time and it ruined his life. He further describes down below that he was at his uncle's house, his mother's house, and his grandmother's house around the time of the murders. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but you can pause and read if you want. These are all from interviews on the channel Open Secrets, which, like I said, he did several interviews on camera and on the phone. And if he had been the murderer of Delphi, would he really be drawing attention to himself and giving interviews about the case? He said that somebody submitted his dad as a suspect in the case, and the dad replied to police officers, "Talk to my attorney, I'm not talking to you." I doubt that many people would take a lie detector test if they were guilty of murders, because the chances of passing aren't very good if you know that you did it. Obviously, he failed at least one question. One of the interview questions was about his girlfriend, Ashley, who was also implicated in the murder of Nicole Bowen. The question was, could she have been involved in the Delphi murders? He said that he didn't think so because if she was, he felt like she would have told him. To me, the way he answered that question really doesn't point to him being guilty. Also, he said he did not have a driver's license in 2017, and other people, including his parents, grandparents, and friends, had to drive him around. In all of his photos, he seems to have fairly short hair, and in some frames of the Bridge Guy video, it seems like he might have hair in the front of his forehead. The teenager who saw Bridge Guy at 1:30 said she is 5'6", and that Bridge Guy was either her height or just a little bit taller, so if he was 5'10" or 5'11", it doesn't seem to be like it would be Kurt's. And he wasn't even a suspect until his mugshot came out regarding the 2019 case. He said, "That's what aggravates me, because I wasn't even a person of interest until this blank happened," referring to the Nicole Bowen meth murder. Also, he had to submit his DNA since he committed a felony in Indiana, and I'm sure law enforcement would have matched it up to any DNA connected at Delphi, although there's questions about whether they have anything that's reliable. My verdict is that he is innocent, although hopefully he will also be charged with Ray Hanish's murder. So that's the end of my list of suspects that I've looked into, and I honestly can't say that any of them really stand out where I'm sure that somebody is guilty. I did look at a few other people, but I didn't feel like any of them deserved to be in the video or were guilty. I am looking at one other person that nobody else has mentioned, and I kind of found him in a unique technique of mine. I'm 99% sure that he is not involved, but there are 3 or 4 things about him that kind of raise my eyebrows about him possibly being capable of this. Unfortunately, I'm kind of running into a few problems corroborating a few things, but like I said, I doubt it's him, but I need to at least confirm a few other things before I give up on it. At the beginning of my research, I saw a company named Indiana Packers referenced a few times, so I went and found their website, and I noticed that they had a webcam from October 2016 through September 2017 as they built a new building and parking lot. This is an image I created with a yellow pin in the corner where I believe the camera was. It seemed to take a screenshot every 12 to 13 minutes and point it to this road, which is known as 625. Here is the Carroll County transfer station. So what stood out to me was, you can see up here it says Monday, February 13th, 2017, 1:28 p.m. And you see the road, there's nothing there. Then for the next screenshot at 1:41, there's a white truck parked on the side of the road. Remember, the teenage girl saw Bridge Guy at 1:30. Like I said, I did find this early on in my research, and since then I've seen a few other people mention it. it, so I'm not acting like I'm the only person who's ever found this or thought of this. Some people seem to think that it could possibly be either an accomplice waiting for Bridge Guy or Bridge Guy himself. I don't think that it's related to the murders, but I do think it's kind of odd that it was there soon after the girls were dropped off at the trails and then it left soon after Bridge Guy left. I'll explain further so people have more details and don't have to waste time researching themselves. This is a close-up of the truck from 153, 205, 217, 229, 242, 254, 306, 318, and at 331 it's not there. So what could it have been doing there? It was in this location here. So up here is the Carroll County Transfer Station. This is from Google Earth from April 2017, 2 months after the murders. I found this on the City of Delphi website. The transfer station is open Mondays from 9 to 4. It's basically for garbage and recycling. So 141 to 318 are the timestamps where the truck is parked. That is 1 hour and 37 minutes. At 128 and 331, the truck is not there. So if you assume that the truck arrived 1 minute past 128 at 129 and left 1 minute before 331 at 330, that's 2 hours and 1 minute. Some possibilities that I thought of were that the truck had just been at the transfer station dropping things off. It could have been a plumber or maintenance worker waiting for their next call to come in, a construction guy taking a nap or a long lunch break, or someone working on the construction of the Indiana Packers building and they were waiting for some reason. I wondered if it was possible for Bridge Guy, if he was in the truck, to walk from the truck to the murder scene. It shows that it's a direct route of 1.74 miles, which I assume would take the average person about 30 minutes to walk that length. And keep in mind, the teenager said that she saw Bridge Guy around 1:30, and the truck doesn't appear until 1:41. Basically, it does not make sense that Bridge Guy could have parked there and walked to and from the trails, especially since he was seen walking toward Freedom Bridge, which is up in this area in the opposite direction of Indiana Packers. I also don't believe it was an accomplice parking there, but for conspiracy theorist's sake, and not believing the 12:30 female resident saying that she saw him, the white truck could have dropped Bridge Guy off around Freedom Bridge prior to 125 and then waited next to Packers. The teenage girl sees him at 1:30. Arguing couple and flannel shirt guy see him around 3:10 to 3:15. He calls his accomplice to come get him, and so the truck leaves Packers between 3:18 and 3:31. With that theory, Bridge Guy would have had to have some kind of communication with the guy in the truck, so he would have had to have a cell phone, both of which would have pinged. Like I said, I don't think this seems likely, but I did think it was odd that that car was parked there during that time. In the satellite image I obtained from 1258, you can see in the parking lot at the transfer station there is some white buildings, and there appear to be at least one white vehicle parked there. So I'm going to just assume that that truck had been at the transfer station and, like I said, either took a lunch break or a nap before going back to their job. I sent an email to Indiana Packers to ask them if that camera included any live footage to see if somebody got out of the truck and walked toward the bridge. They didn't reply, which honestly I didn't expect them to. Hopefully law enforcement asked Packers for their webcam footage or any kind of other security footage. Also, the residents from this side of the bridge, hopefully they asked for any kind of ring or security cameras to see who was going on the private drive. Also, they could have asked the transfer station for any kind of footage. And I believe maybe this is the place that Ron Logan drove to, also known as the city dump, and he wasn't supposed to since he had a suspended license. Lastly, I looked at most of the daytime images from the Packers webcam from February 1st through February 14th, looking to see if that truck had stopped there again, and it did not. I also looked in all of the frames from the parking lot and the building being constructed to see if any of the workers matched the outfit of Bridge Guy, and I did not find anything. Just to finish up with the webcam, I wanted to make people aware of what the weather was like on the 13th and the prior days. You can see on the 8th, it started to snow around noon. By the next morning, the ground was covered with snow. By Saturday, the 11th, most of it had melted by the end of the day. At 8:34 in the morning on the 13th, the Packers webcam showed the temperature was 28. However, I found this website called Wonderground, which has historical temperature data. The closest city to Delphi that I could find was West Lafayette. You can see at 8:54, they show the low for the day was 23. and the high at 2:54 and 3:54 was 43 degrees, which goes against quite a few people who said it was an unseasonably warm day. Okay, maybe compared to 20 to 25, but 43 degrees is not like it's warm out. The other point I wanted to make regarding this is because of the snow melting, the creek level was higher than some people seem to be posting photos of from either summertime or when there had not been any kind of precipitation. As you can see in this helicopter footage from the 14th, the day after the murders, some of the searchers are up to their waist in water. This isn't the exact position where the girls crossed, but it is somewhat nearby. So I think this is one of the best viewpoints of the level of the creek. You can see that there is some kind of a sandbar here, but like I said, it's not as shallow as some people seem to think it was at certain other times of the year. And also, since it was mid-February, I'm sure it was very cold water. Because the murders happened the day before Valentine's Day, it made me, and I'm sure quite a few other people, question, could this have been related to the murders? Whether it was random or not, was the bridge guy upset about a relationship? I know that law enforcement and their families said that their social media was checked and they don't believe that they were there to meet anybody or that they were catfished. But when I first started looking at this case, I definitely wondered, could a guy have catfished at least one of them and been upset that she showed up with another friend? Abby supposedly had a boyfriend who was 1.5 years older than her. Honestly, I really don't know what else to say about this, and I'd be curious to know if one of the signature items that was left had anything to do with maybe Valentine's Day candy or whatever. Just to finish up with the social media, obviously this is referred to as the Snapchat murders because of the photos that were posted. Libby created a Twitter profile in August 2014 when she was 11, but there's only one tweet from when she signed up. I took a quick look at who she was following and her followers, and nothing really stood out. Obviously, if it was Bridge Guy, he would unfollow her. She also had Instagram, a music app that she would post singing videos on, and Kik. Based on her Kik username, I found out that there's a way to see people's profile pics, to see when they last changed it, using a Unix timestamp, and it showed that she uploaded it on June 22nd, 2014, and that it had never been updated. Libby's sister said that it was kind of a last-minute request from them to go to the bridge, and that it seemed unlikely that they were meeting anybody. I found a court record from October 2017 where Libby's grandmother filed a petition requiring Apple to assist with the recovery of any data on Libby's iPhone. Hopefully law enforcement also was able to request data from Snapchat, Kik, and any other social media sites to see any users who viewed Libby's profile in the days prior. Abby's mom said that she signed paperwork for the FBI to go on their Apple and Gmail accounts, and they did not find that they were being followed or supposed to be meeting anybody. They did not have any fake profiles, although Abby had a Facebook that she did not tell her mom about. Abby also wasn't allowed to have a phone, but Libby's sister said that she secretly used Libby's iPad and had an Instagram and Snapchat. If the relatives say that the FBI and law enforcement and Apple have all cooperated, we obviously should trust their statements. Next, I'd like to talk about what could possibly have happened between the murderer and the two girls to have resulted in them getting across the creek and unfortunately being murdered. This timeline here is a little bit different from the witness timeline. This one is more about the interaction between the girls and Bridge Guy and the timing of that. So around 1:30, the teenage girl saw Bridge Guy around Freedom Bridge, and it's a 10-minute slow walk from Freedom Bridge to the trailhead. Around 1:30, the teenage girl and her friends saw Bridge Guy around Freedom Bridge, and it's about a 10-minute walk if they go slow to get to this intersection here. At 1:38, Libby's dad said that she called as they pulled out of their home driveway, and it takes about 7 minutes to get to the Mears parking lot for the trail. So assume they got dropped off around 1:45. It takes about 1 to 2 minutes to walk to this intersection. It's actually a fairly short distance. Over here you can see the bench. It's unknown if the girls walked toward Freedom Bridge or the lower path first, but it seems unlikely since those two are not as exciting or good for photos as the high bridge. People say the walk from the intersection to the high bridge is about 6 to 7 minutes, but assume up to 8 if they're walking really slow and not in a hurry. For those of you who are not aware, I believe this upper one is called the 501 trail, and the lower trail is called the 505. Apparently they can see in between, although I saw some photos where it looks like this area south of the 501 trail has mounds of dirt. I don't know the exact height of the mound or if anybody on this lower trail could have seen somebody walking on the 501 if they're lurking down here. So as soon as they get to the front of the bridge around 1:55, Libby took this photo of the bridge in the direction that they're walking. As you can see, there are multiple platforms on the sides here where you can stand. And I believe Libby was standing here when she took this photo of Abby. Now in the background here, it is not a person, that is a gate. This is the opposite side of the gate. Apparently it was Abby's first time walking across the bridge, although Libby had done it multiple times before. Obviously they were in no hurry to go across because it's kind of dangerous, especially with it being her first time. Some people say it takes an average of 7 minutes to go across from one end to here. So assume they could have gotten to this end approximately at 2:02 p.m. There's some uncertainty about whether the Abby photo was taken and posted at 2:07 or if it was viewed by another user at that time. If you look at the timestamp, it says 7 hours ago, so I don't know if that was somebody who took a screenshot around 9 p.m. that night when they were looking for the girls. I would imagine law enforcement has a better idea of the exact times. So, when did Bridge Guy first see the girls? When did they first see him? Did they talk or have some kind of interaction? Did they see him doing something illegal? Did they do something to insult him? Did he do anything that scared them? I think he was maybe loitering in this trail intersection area, or if he was sitting on the bench or near this area, it's a perfect spot to see everything that's going on in the trails, because you see people coming from the 505, coming back from the bridge or going to it in the direction of Freedom Bridge, and whoever gets dropped off or parks at this lot here. So if he saw them get dropped off at 1:45, he knew that somebody was going to be coming back to get them at some point, which is a horrible thing to kill people and knowing that someone's going to be looking for them. But he also would have known that he had plenty of time to do stuff, because obviously people don't come to these trails for only 20 minutes before their parents come to pick them up. So he could have been sitting on this bench or standing in this area here as they come here and make the left to go toward the high bridge. And they could have been talking about something totally different and giggling while they saw him, and he could have taken it personally. And he could have mistakenly thought that they were making fun of him if he has some kind of history of low self-esteem from kids in school making fun of him, or as an adult with women rejecting him. Obviously, these are just speculation on my part, but everyone has their own theories. So one of my theories is maybe they did have some kind of interaction here where he felt insulted. I'm not saying that they did anything mean to him, but like I said, it could have been something coincidental where they were just laughing and he assumed that they were laughing at him. So did Bridge Guy have all those items stuffed in his jacket at that time? Or did he feel really disrespected and walk all the way back to his car as CPS, get items to kill them with? Maybe if he was a hunter, he had knives in the car and some items that were left as signature items, walks all the way back, comes here and sees that they're near the end of the bridge, and he starts crossing it to teach them a lesson, not to laugh at him. Or did he go to the trails that day to kill somebody if the opportunity arose and he had the items in his jacket the entire time? That's why I'm curious to know if the witnesses earlier in the day noticed that he had any bulges in his pocket, because they're hard to miss. As you approach the bridge at the end of the trail, there is this gate here. One possibility is that he kind of crept up on them as they were on the bridge and looked through some branches here. He may have seen Libby taking Abby's picture, and he waited for them both to turn their backs to him and walk towards the end of the bridge before he actually started to go on it. Although that might not make sense since they were all the way at the end of the bridge as he was getting closer. So I wonder, maybe when the girls got to the end of the bridge, did Libby maybe sit down here as Abby stood around and walked around, and maybe Libby took photos of her? And at that point, when Libby had her phone out, maybe she made some filters to the Snapchat photos and uploaded them when she got to the end of the bridge. They would have immediately noticed somebody walking on the bridge since it's so empty and they're looking in that direction. So I can kind of imagine Libby sitting on the right side here with her elbows rested against her legs as she fooled around on her phone. And as Bridge Guy got closer, maybe she pushed to record a video and put the phone against the side of her leg to kind of do a sneaky video. So if she had uploaded those photos to Snapchat around 2:07 when they got to the end of the bridge, this interaction with Bridge Guy could have happened as early as 2:10, I think, or as late as 2:30 or so. So for people who are either new to this case or even people who are familiar with it, you hear the law enforcement say that they think it's somebody local and that the bridge is very remote. And you see something like this and you think, oh, well, I mean, it looks like there's a fairly large highway here. Most people would have easy access to it or know about it. So this is Google Earth from April 2017. And if you go backwards, you're going to see what it looked like before they built that highway. This is what it looked like in February 2012, 5 years before the murders. So you see that highway was not here, and there's only this going here. So here's the bridge over here. And this is where Freedom Bridge ended up being. That became the alternate parking lot, and this is the CPS building here. So why would Bridge Guy be there on a Monday from noon to 3? And why would he want to kill them? I said earlier that even though the video was only 2 seconds long, it is obviously difficult to really determine somebody's personality and life history from a 2-second video crossing a bridge. But the way he walks kind of reminds me of somebody who's insecure, isn't good with girls or women. In a TikTok video, Brian Chadwell said he didn't feel photogenic and that he really doesn't like people, so he has dogs. And now he has a cellmate. So if this was not somebody local who somehow stumbled upon the trails, and he did interact with a female resident towards the end of the trail, he knew he couldn't commit a sexual crime here because he saw a resident and he could see that her house is in this area. So he would know that he would have to take them down the hill and go across the creek for more privacy. So some potential motives would be kidnapping, sexual assault, revenge, or if they inadvertently insulted him earlier on the trail. Why would Bridge Guy not want them to make it out of the woods alive? Maybe if they saw him doing something illegal. Although if he was a stranger and they could not identify him, why would he add a double murder charge to whatever he was doing? Was he maybe on parole, and if he got in trouble because of them talking, could he have gone back to prison, and that's why he didn't want them to be able to speak and make it out of the woods alive? For people who believe that Brian Chadwell may be responsible for this, he had just gotten out of jail after 12 years, and he may have been on parole. So obviously if he committed a crime, he wouldn't want the girls to be able to tell on him. But like I said, does that really make sense to add a double murder to not get in trouble for doing drugs in the woods? Some people speculate that this might be a revenge since Libby's father had been arrested a few times for drugs. Could it have been somebody who recognized Libby as Derek's daughter and thought murdering her would be the ultimate payback? To me, that seems kind of far-fetched, but you never know. I thought about it being a possible kidnapping, but I just don't think it's likely. It's hard for me to think that a guy could think that he could kidnap or sexually assault 2 girls at one time. If he went there looking to kidnap just one girl and saw the 2 of them, why would he proceed when there's 2? And if his car was parked at the CPS building, it makes no sense to kidnap girls, take them all the way across the bridge or even through the creek and back through the woods, not knowing how many people they would run into as they go through the trails. People say he could have parked at the cemetery, but if law enforcement is asking people to ID the car at the CPS lot, it seems to indicate that they have some information that they think that is where he parked. If it was a premeditated assault or killing, it only makes sense really for him to have parked at the CPS building, because apparently the 2 most popular parking spots for the trails were this one across the street and also Mears, so if he parked his car where other people will be coming and going, they could more easily identify his car. Or maybe when he arrived, there was a car or 2 at the cemetery and he didn't want to risk getting noticed. People speculate that Bridge Guy went there just to kill somebody. So why didn't he kill the woman that he ran into maybe in this area, who's the female resident? There's speculation that she may have had a dog or dogs, and yes, they would have barked or maybe fought back. Wouldn't you assume that 2 teenage girls would have screamed? Which nobody heard any screams or any gunshots. And if Abby and Libby had never showed up that day, would he have killed the woman who arrived at 2:45 and her friend? So one of Libby's sneakers was found, I believe, somewhere in this area. If the girls were cooperating with Bridge Guy, wouldn't he have allowed her time to put the shoe back on if it had gotten stuck in mud? Or did she lose her shoe another way? Like I said, when you go down the hill here, it's kind of steep. So there's speculation, did the girls at one point make a run for it to try and go across the creek to get away from him? The girls had just walked across a dangerous bridge, so I would assume that Libby's shoelaces were tied fairly well. So I tried to imagine different situations that could have possibly progressed and wondered if she was standing near Bridge Guy at a certain point and maybe tried to kick him, and he may have grabbed the back of her sneaker and ripped her shoe off. Or did it maybe fall off as they were walking down the steep hill and she was carrying it for a certain point and maybe tried to throw it at Bridge Guy or hit him with it before they tried to run away? I wonder if law enforcement checked her shoe for any DNA, because like I said, if he grabbed her shoe as she tried to kick him, or if she hit him with it, there would possibly be some of his DNA on that sneaker. There's speculation that either one or both of the girls were found either totally nude or partially nude. And I thought another scenario might be when they were over by the crime scene, he could have taken her sweatpants off and taken her sneakers off, and in a fit of rage, maybe just thrown her sneaker as far as he could across the creek and maybe just randomly landed over here. Again, that sneaker would probably have some kind of his DNA, although I assume he probably put gloves on at a certain point to hide his DNA and fingerprints, although they said there might be a touch fingerprint on one of the items. So if he did not remove their clothes, at some point was he able to get them across the creek to the crime scene and had them remove their clothes and maybe do something to each other? I know this is kind of sensitive topics, but I'm just trying to think of how this could have progressed from a sexual assault to murdering 2 girls. And like I said, it just seems kind of hard to imagine somebody killing 2 girls without anybody hearing any screams, or one of the girls at least being able to get away. There was a report that a few items of clothing were actually found in the creek. And if where they crossed was almost waist high, I wondered if maybe Libby had lost her shoe on the other side of the creek. She goes across the creek and her sweatpants start to fall off, and maybe Bridge Guy was able to grab the loose sweatpant leg and either pull her sweatpants totally off or to subdue her at some point and maybe stabbed her that way. But again, what is Abby doing as Libby is getting killed? And what is Libby doing as Abby is getting killed? It just, like I said, there's so many questions that I know everybody who looks into this case has. The former prosecutor said the crime scene has a lot of evidence and unique facts and was very odd and physically strange, which a lot of people speculate different things, and I honestly don't even know where to start. Like I said, there's so much speculation online about various things and pretty much every single thing that happened in this case, and I understand that I'm also speculating here. Some people said that there were reports that both girls' necks were cut, but one person said that they went to Abby's funeral and it did not look like there was any cut on her neck. So did Bridge Guy maybe stab her first, and then Libby tried to protect her and that's how she got stabbed? Did Bridge Guy panic that he was going to get arrested, that whatever his plan had progressed too far and that the only option was to kill them so they couldn't tell on him? But that doesn't make sense either, because his jacket had so many items in it and he apparently left items at the crime scene, so it seems like it was premeditated and not random. Or did he even leave items at the scene that were known as signatures that really had nothing to do with anything about his personality, but he's looking to throw off law enforcement in investigating him? So if he leaves religious items, they're thinking it's related to somebody who's into religion, but he may not be at all. There's reports that up to 50 to 70 people were on the trails that day. I don't understand how nobody heard these girls scream, especially crossing a creek in February when the temperature's in the low 40s and some guy is chasing you. Had he put some kind of masking tape over their mouths when they were still at the end of the bridge? Or was there a second person waiting on the other side of the creek for them? I, like everybody else who's looked into this case, have an endless list of unanswered questions. I'm sure thousands of people have thought of these exact questions before, but this is my list of what popped into my mind over the past 2.5 months researching this case. I don't expect law enforcement or viewers to answer these questions, but I'm just sharing my thoughts. Apparently, Libby reset her iPhone about a week prior because it was freezing up. Would that have wiped any communication, text, app messages with a guy she said she could meet the afternoon of the 13th? I know law enforcement said they looked into it, but is there anything that could have been deleted that they would not have seen? She knew ahead of time that she was getting a 4-day weekend on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday due to unused snow days. Did Libby at any point tell Bridge Guy that she recorded him? Libby's video of Bridge Guy would have had a timestamp. Why can't law enforcement release the time Bridge Guy said go down the hill? I understand that's really none of our business as amateurs and we're just curious, but it will be helpful to know if he did encounter them at 2:10 or 2:35. Did Bridge Guy know that Libby had a phone at any point? Did Libby's phone have a security code or face recognition, or could anyone, including Bridge Guy, have opened it? If Bridge Guy did arrive at the trails around noon and reached the end of the bridge for the first time with a resident encounter around 12:30, what was he doing for the next hour before the teenage girl saw him at Freedom Bridge? What was he doing between 1:30 and encountering the girls, possibly almost an hour later? Law enforcement has said that there's unreleased audio and video, and there's also been speculation that there's nothing of use. So did Bridge Guy say what he planned to do to them, or why he was there and why he wanted them to go down the hill? Who said they saw Bridge Guy? Was it the resident, the teenage girl, flannel shirt guy, and the male of the arguing couple? What is the exact timing of all of those, and the locations? More descriptions would be helpful. Did Bridge Guy have bulges in his jacket at the 12:30 and 1:30 sightings? Did the female resident at 12:30 and flannel shirt guy confirm that the voice of the audio matched the man they talked to? When Libby's sister Kelsey told her boyfriend she was dropping them off at the trails, did he text or tell anyone, or was anyone nearby to hear? I'm not suggesting that he or his friends are murderers. I'm just asking questions here. Did Kelsey ever mention if she looked at the cemetery when she dropped them off and noticed any cars parked there? Did law enforcement check deaths in Indiana to see if any men committed suicide who matched the profile of Bridge Guy in the months following the murders? Did Bridge Guy realize the mistake he made and soon after went to kill himself in another area of woods and no one has found his body yet? Could Bridge Guy have been a loner with no one to file a missing persons police report? Did law enforcement request local TV video and photos from the 13th and 14th before the Bridge Guy photo was released to see if any men wearing jeans with the knee holes and rips and the blue jacket or brown hoodie showed up in the search party? If Bridge Guy put gloves on at some point after he met the girls, which I think he probably did, he must have taken them off before he got back on the trail. Did he throw them somewhere in the woods? Bury them further away? Throw in a garbage can at Freedom Bridge? Unlikely. Or did he put them in his jacket to dispose of later, to burn in his backyard fire pit? I know, right there I was just alluding to Chadwell, even though I said I really don't think it's him. I'm surprised the Bridge Guy was spotted on the trails as late as 3:15, since it really doesn't seem like it would have taken long to go down the hill, cross the creek, and kill them. Did he happen to do something on the other side of the creek before he killed them? What did he do after confirming that they had died, and how elaborate was the staging? And why would somebody stick around a murder scene to do staging? Why is the released video of the guy on the bridge so short? Adding more frames before and after could provide more clues. Did any men in Indiana or the surrounding states ask friends or relatives to delete any social media posts or photos around the time of the murders, possibly of them wearing the same exact outfit? The hill at the end of the bridge looks really steep to go down. If Bridge Guy didn't have gloves on at that point, it seems as though he and the girls would have had to hold on to an occasional branch as they went down. Did law enforcement clip the branches to test for DNA of the girls and Bridge Guy? Obviously, it's too late now. The girls were supposedly staged in a particular position. If the killer was wearing gloves that weren't leather or rubber, possible fabric could be on their clothes to try and match up to a type of glove. How much of the area around the murder site has been checked for weapons or clothing? If this was motivated as a sexual crime and Bridge Guy is still alive, what is he doing now to find sex? How can law enforcement use it to catch him? Did law enforcement check all the local convenience and liquor store, gas station, home, ring, security camera footage in a 50-mile radius from that entire day, before and after, to see if he was caught on film, wearing the same jacket, jeans with holes, before the image was released? Obviously, checking every single home and business in a 50-mile radius sounds impossible, but I'm just curious to know how much they did search. Obviously, it seems like towards the beginning of the investigation, they assumed that it would be really quick to solve because of the video evidence. Bridge Guy probably went somewhere that morning or night that caught him on camera. If convenience stores, gas stations, or any kind of store in the Delphi area still has access to the security camera footage from that month or before, they need to look at it. It could be worth $325,000. Obviously, most businesses and homes do not have anything from 4 years ago, but you never know. If Bridge Guy was a drifter who went back toward the highway and hitchhiked on a tractor trailer, did they check the next few travel lodges and large gas stations where tractor trailers pull in for gas? To look at security footage for when they got food or to go to the bathroom? If some clothes were found in the creek, did police search further down the creek to see if any other evidence was thrown or drifted away until it got stuck on the bank? Could Bridge Guy have been picked up by someone and not parked or walked home? What type of job isn't working at 2 p.m. on a Monday, other than somebody who's unemployed or retired? I'm not criticizing law enforcement. They've obviously put in thousands of hours trying to solve this, but I don't think it hurts for outsiders to offer suggestions, even though law enforcement said, please don't send us suggestions on how to investigate. I'm not sending in any of my information. I've seen way too many people online saying that they sent in tips about, frankly, some really stupid things. It's no wonder that law enforcement has said that they've had over 50,000 tips, yet not a single one has led to the arrest of somebody. It's sad and frustrating to see certain people creating false evidence. In my research, I came across a website that said it zoomed in on the helicopter footage from the morning of the 14th, and they showed a series of pictures saying that they used filters and it showed the outline of Abby's body. They said the timestamp of the helicopter footage was 18 minutes and 14 seconds. And when I watched it, it was obviously the orange truck in the corner of the cemetery. It had nothing to do with the crime scene or showing anybody's body, even though they showed a fake picture of somebody's body. Yes, in my research that I just showed, I did alter some of the videos and audio, trying to get different perspectives, but I'm not creating false evidence and saying that is true. I think it's time for law enforcement to start pushing for more answers in a stronger way, since it's been over 1,500 days without an arrest. If they have a few people of interest but not enough evidence, what are some ways that they can get more evidence or trick the suspect? I think if law enforcement has exhausted all options through traditional investigative methods, it's time to start increasing their digital forensics. So my suggested next steps for law enforcement would be the following, although like I said, I'm not submitting this to law enforcement because they frankly don't care. And most viewers probably don't either. Anyway, did law enforcement ask internet service providers, Google, Microsoft Bing, and other search engines in Indiana and surrounding states if they could do a search of IP addresses that searched both Monon High Bridge and Freedom Bridge in the months prior to the murders? Did they contact Reddit, Web Sleuths, and Google Alerts to find the IP addresses of people in Indiana who are regularly accessing threads related to the murders, and see if any of those IP addresses match up to the homes of any potential suspects? Look what other websites that IP address and person have visited and other search terms and online activity. Since the crime, what has that IP address searched? IP addresses can be matched to a customer, address, or cell phone that pinged near the bridge that day. They should do this with their top suspects to check their internet history from 2016 to the present. Is he closely following the case today? Did law enforcement check with the internet providers for Abby and Libby's homes to see which websites were visited the prior weeks? I know Abby's mother said they gave permission to the FBI to search their social media and Gmail, but do they also search their internet search history and websites visited? Their phones, computers, and iPads could have erased web histories, but the internet service provider should have the websites visited, as well as any terms searched in Google or other search engines, because the results pages usually show the terms in the URL. Did law enforcement contact car manufacturers to see if they were able to run any reports on GPS-enabled cars to see who was parked near the trails that day? Is that a violation of privacy? Yes, but frankly, who cares if it solves a murder? I know most cars, especially old ones, do not have any GPS capabilities. Is there a way to analyze phone data near the bridge? Did Bridge Guy leave his phone in the car and then turn it off, and there's a way to see who turned the phone off within the Delphi area during the murders? Maybe look for a phone number that pinged around noon and then went silent until 3:15 or 3:30. The wanted poster says Bridge Guy could be 5'6" to 5'10". Law enforcement or a YouTube channel should use an iPhone 6 to take video from Libby's perspective and measure people who are 5'5", 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", and 5'11", and have them all walk and stand in the exact position where Bridge Guy was videotaped. Then compare the images to get a more exact height for Bridge Guy, because 5'6" to 5'10" is 5 different heights. It's a little bit too inclusive and would be more helpful if they could narrow it down, and does not seem like it would be time-consuming or expensive. If Bridge Guy said he had a gun on the audio, are any of the suspects registered gun owners? Yes, I realize some people get guns illegally. Did Bridge Guy have Facebook Messenger on his phone, and Facebook can do a search of phones in the area during noon to 3:30 and provide records showing where those phones were later in the day? Apps are always secretly tracking phones and people. Brian Chadwell seemed to be posting pictures from his phone in 2017. It should not be that difficult to try and pinpoint his location. If Bridge Guy was there from noon to 3:15, he possibly had to urinate. Did law enforcement have dogs sniff out urine at the crime scene and other parts where he could have walked? They should have had dogs sniff the entire woods, including the opposite side, to retrace their steps. If law enforcement has more video and audio, why not release it? I understand repeatedly people say because they don't want to reveal anything or create any false confessions. If the audio or video has things in it that would be upsetting for the family to hear, it's going to be played at his trial and they're going to hear it eventually. So wouldn't they prefer to have it released now if it means a better chance of getting somebody arrested? If people who know him will recognize his voice with more words? Did someone in the search team search where they were later found on the 13th? If the girls were murdered around 3 p.m. and the family started looking around 4 to 5 p.m. and were found around noon on the 14th, that's almost 20 hours of searching without finding the bodies. There is some speculation by people who think that the girls were taken somewhere else and then brought back in the early morning. Law enforcement said that the girls were found where they were killed. The girls may have been partially covered with leaves, so I'm not saying that the search party did anything wrong by not finding them. The woods were very large, but I'm just curious to know if somebody did search that exact area prior. Did the autopsy reveal the time of death? Police need to release one of the signature items found at the scene if it is an item that somebody might recognize belonged to somebody they know. These are a few things I thought about next steps for the family and law enforcement. They should create a website or add to the FBI and Indiana police sites with facts about the case. As somebody who just started following the case about 2.5 months ago, I spent so much time trying to get caught up, so I think it would be very helpful if there was an official site stating facts. On April 5th of this year, an anonymous $100,000 donation raised the reward to $325,000, but the Indiana State Police website still listed as may be in excess of $200,000. For 4 years, the only way to donate is mailing a check, which is extremely outdated. They need to add electronic donation options like PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, GoFundMe, wire bank transfers, and other electronic donation options. There are so many people who want this case resolved, I really think it would be easy to get the reward to either $500,000 or $1 million within a few weeks if they just added more options to donate. A lot of people don't even use checks anymore. When the reward total gets to about $500,000 or $1 million, they should start a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok social media campaign to share the jeans photo and GIF with the specific rips and holes in them. Like I said, I really believe that those genes are what can solve this case because it's so identifiable. They should ask people in Indiana and the surrounding states to look at their old photos before February 13th, 2017, to see if anyone in the background or foreground of the pictures is wearing those jeans or that blue jacket. Like, look at photos from sporting events, family get-togethers, work events, etc., and ask people to share the posts on social media. If possible, law enforcement should release more audio of the killer's voice and details about the case in a 2-minute video where they ask viewers for help. If most men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are not on social media or Facebook, women should ask their husbands and fathers if they recognize the guy in the video. To increase attention on the case, the family should ask a Los Angeles or New York City public relations firm for either free or discounted advice on how to promote the case, get on shows nationally, etc. If Bridge Guy is a blue-collar worker, the case can be solved by blue-collar men who would recognize him. The family should go on Joe Rogan's podcast, Howard Stern, and other high-profile shows. They should put flyers in hunting and fishing stores in surrounding states in Indiana. If they do another billboard campaign, what stood out to me about this is the pictures of the girls are bigger than the guy that they're looking for. Obviously, you want the viewer to have sympathy and anger to get it solved because the girls were brutally murdered, but the image of the killer should be more prominently featured. Like I said, I searched so many things related to this case, and this list is just a few of them. I searched Indiana motorcycle clubs and looked at over 1,000 photos from years prior to 2017 to see if any of the guys were wearing those jeans or the jacket, as well as the hat, or to see if any of their scarves had a similar logo, and I did not find anything, obviously. I looked at Delphi photos for school sports and people in the stands wearing similar clothes from 2016 to early 2017. I randomly came across a YouTube channel called Machinery Pete that has tractor auctions in Indiana and spent about an hour looking at those. Again, just looking for guys in the background who are wearing these similar clothes. The Facebook page for Beck's Hybrids, I looked through their entire 736 photo gallery. I came across a YouTube video for Delphi Oktoberfest that had gold mining in the creeks. So I looked at multiple videos of guys looking for gold in creeks in the Indiana area from before 2017. I looked at hunting and fishing stores near Delphi and Lafayette that sell hats and sweatshirts as well as hunting and fishing gear to see if anything matched up to Bridge Guy. I searched Instagram for Freedom Bridge and people who tagged the GPS location of Delphi, Indiana, all the way back to 2012 to see if anyone took photos with Bridge Guy in the background unknowingly. I know that Bridge Guy, the killer, most likely won't be watching this, but you never know. My message would be, turn yourself in. You not only murdered 2 girls and robbed them of their futures, you murdered a part of the souls of their family and negatively affected their friends, the surrounding towns, strangers all over the world, police, the list goes on and on.
The faces and tears of firemen, lawmen, and volunteers told the tragic outcome. The hope among hundreds of searchers turned to heartbreak.
How have you felt over the past 4 years when you've seen pictures of Abby and Libby smiling, when you have it ingrained in your mind their faces of fear as you ended their lives?
He smiled all the time.
You did something wrong. Do something right and admit to your wrong. In addressing you, I don't know why law enforcement has referenced religion because you obviously don't go to church or believe in God. If you did, you would have turned yourself in already. Asking God for forgiveness from the comfort of your own bed every night doesn't cut it. You committed a sin. You need to confess before you die or it'll be too late. Libby's grandmother has cancer. You have the ability to relieve at least a little bit of stress from this woman's life by turning yourself in.
And if I do beat this, I get to stay here and look for this killer.
Libby made people feel good.
Do you have a heart? What if that was your mother or grandmother? Thousands of other people who are strangers are trying to solve this case for 4 years to bring peace to the families. You are the one person who has that power. Have you even thought about why you can't bring yourself to confess? Yes, you will go to jail, but at least you will have some peace in your mind to know that you admitted your mistake, and in doing so, it released the stress of Abby and Libby's families, parents, grandparents, sister, friends, and community. Are you afraid of the death penalty? Afraid of what your family and friends and coworkers will think when they find out? And be disappointed in you? That fear is nothing compared to the fear that Abby and Libby felt as you led them to their premature deaths. Do you have children? How would you feel if this happened to your child, and after over 1,500 sleepless nights, there's still no resolution? You can resolve this. It isn't a game of cat and mouse between you and the police so you can feel superior to them. If you have kids, one day they will have grandkids who, despite this horrible thing that you did, will one day want to meet and interact with their grandfather, even if you are in prison for a horrible thing. Do you have fond memories of interacting with your grandfather?
Probably a $10 bill or something. So she called me up and said, Grandpa, with the change, can I give it to somebody else or somebody who needs something here at school?
This has been a very hard year. A very hard year. This is, the girls are seniors this year. And I will always speak of Libby in the present tense because to me, she's always here. We've been watching, we've been seeing on Facebook and stuff, their friends. And I realize we don't have senior pictures.
She left me one day a note in my sun visor. I love you. Thank you for all you do for me and Kelsey.
Her things are still here. We just can't. We can't erase her from our lives, and we don't want to.
You can experience the same joy with your grandchildren in the future, but if you don't turn yourself in and you get the death penalty, that won't happen. Are you even sorry that you did this? Or did you receive joy from killing 2 teenage girls and knowing that you've evaded the police for 4 years? Law enforcement has spent so much time trying to bring justice for the girls and their families. Do you feel happy that you frustrated them? This shouldn't be about you proving that you were able to elude the police. You can turn your negative action into somewhat of a positive to finally bring closure and relief to thousands of people.
It's so hard.
Words don't come easy right now, but tears do, especially when these sisters think about Libby.
She was nice to everybody.
For their mother, it isn't any easier.
I can't imagine what the other parents are going through right now. I mean, the girls were my girls' ages, and I can't even put myself in their shoes.
If you regret your actions that day, the only way to make good out of it is to go and confess. Don't wait to go to an afterlife and hope to ask God for forgiveness. Please, do it now. Do you have a heart, compassion, or did you get joy from killing girls who didn't have weapons like you did? I believe every adult who makes bad mistakes was a child who was either wounded by their parents, peers, or strangers, or all three. Did you have bad things done to you as a kid by adults? Students made fun of you? Girls rejected you? I feel sorry for people who had bad childhoods, but taking it out on Abby and Libby didn't solve any of your pain. It just brought more pain to strangers. By turning yourself in, it can be your way of saying sorry to Abby and Libby for the mistake you made that day.
It's just happening so close to home. How could this be happening here in Delphi?
The only way you can stop these tears from flowing every day is to turn yourself in. The only way to stop your fear and looking over your shoulder every day is to turn yourself in. You've had 4 years of freedom since the murders, or has it been torture for you? You're going to get caught eventually, so stop stressing every day that today is the day. Either contact a lawyer to negotiate that you won't get the death penalty, or tell somebody you care about so they can turn you in and get the reward money. Is there anybody in your life that you care about? Are you capable of caring for other people? Prove it.
We pray every day that we'll have peace someday.